Struggling to get your business online? At Domains2U, we make it easy with fast domain registration, powerful web hosting, and top-tier security solutions. Our hosting solutions ensure speed, security, and reliability with 99.9% uptime and daily backups. Find the perfect domain name and get online in minutes. Get started today at domains2u.com.au.
Good evening, race fans. Welcome back. Tonight is round 7 of the Domains2U GT3 Championship, brought to you as always by MC Motorsport and broadcast right here on Simple Racing Broadcasts. Tonight, the roar of GT3 engines echoes across the Florida coast as we arrive at the world-famous Daytona International Speedway for endurance round. This isn't, of course, oval racing. We are tackling the legendary Daytona road course. It's a high-speed hybrid of NASCAR banking as well as technical infield precision. It is fast, it is unforgiving, and it will demand total commitment from our drivers here tonight. With just 2 rounds left in the championship, the pressure is absolutely at its peak, and the title contenders know that a mistake here could cost them everything with double points on the line. So strap yourselves in, the sun has set over Daytona. We are ready to go racing under lights. My name is Jared Cole and I welcome you back to the booth here. And Dean Biggles-Hopton joins me once again. Biggles, pleasure to have you back. Nothing like racing under lights at a super speedway, is there?
Oh yeah, it was exactly a super speedway with an infield as well too. So you're going to have brake and go left and right, and absolutely, and of course not to mention, I do all that with the pressure that you said mounting on championship hopes and dreams.
Yeah, and it is absolutely coming down to the wire here. For tonight though, a 2-hour enduro, we do have double points on the line as always with our endurance events. So this could be the sort of event that makes a massive difference in the standings. The weather, beautiful. Few clouds around, almost no breeze, amazing temperature. So weather not going to play a factor here tonight, but certainly the length of this race is what looks set to be the deciding factor. Let's take a look before we go down to check out the action in qualifying at where the championship points stand right now as we head into round 7 out of 8. And really got 2 battles going on here. Jeremy Washington and Reese Wakefield out in front battling for that top step. And of course, Danny P and Kyle Ridley in 3rd and 4th. And locked in a close battle for that 3rd step of the podium. But don't count out Josh Benno either, who sits only 19 points. 21 points. My maths is really off tonight, Biggles. Only 21 points behind Danny P for 3rd as well, so he's right in there. Aaron Schotter sitting in 6th is looking reasonably comfortable ahead of Mick Polly, and then James Selhani and Aaron Gilbert sitting in 8th and 9th with Dean Power rounding out the top 10. But a couple of very, very tight battles, of course, with 200 points on offer here tonight for the winner. There is a chance for any of those 3rd, 4th and 5th drivers to make their way a little bit closer to the top step. So we'll have to wait and see what comes of this evening's racing. Welcome back, Courtney Platts. Lovely to have you in the chat once again. Let's get down to the track and check out some of the action as the drivers are underway on qualifying right now. We will go and take a look and see what we can expect here tonight, Biggles, from a track that is, look, it's always good fun, but particularly in GT3 cars, the bus stop here is just, it's going to be incredible tonight.
Bus stop always can deny or give or take away positions quite easily if you do get it all wrong. Of course, because you're coming off the absolute super speedway banking down the backstretch, and then you've got to slow down a little bit there, accelerate, and then get the exits of exits, because that's a great overtaking opportunity as you slice your way all the way down through turns 2, 3 and turns 4, of course, on the regular Daytona oval, and then get ready for your heavy braking zone into turn 1, and then you go into your infield, which is basically two hairpin clips really attached to each other side by side.
Yeah, it's a really interesting infield. It does demand quite a lot more respect than I think it really looks like it should get based on the track map. Those hairpins are notorious for bringing drivers unstuck, and certainly at the enduro events that iRacing put on in its official series here, time and time again, you'll see drivers coming unstuck on the infield. It's not the banking you have to worry so much about. That's reasonably straightforward by comparison, as we see Daniel Poulton setting second best time tonight. Dean Jacobson from Race on Aussie Electrical Entry setting the top time so far, but we are just getting warmed up, only 5 minutes into this 15-minute qualifying session. And we will see what happens tonight. A face we haven't seen in a little while, Nick Clydesdale rejoins the pack here this evening from Southern Cross Racing, out there in the Corvette. And honestly, it's nice to see a Corvette back on track, because I do like seeing them in the GT3 field, and unfortunately Nick the only one who's chosen to run it this season.
Yeah, it's quite surprising, actually. I love the Corvette out there, and Nick obviously a bit of a basketball fan too, with the sporting the basketball helmet there. We're probably, I don't know which team's going for any NBA playoffs that are occurring at the moment. There's down to 4 of those teams, the East versus the West coming in there. But as you mentioned, it is surprisingly, there's a lot of Hondas there. There's you have a couple of Mercedes, a lot of McLarens as well too. A couple of Fords, yeah, they do blow up every once in a while as well too, and your typical Porsche doing Porsche things.
Absolutely. Jeremy Washington, our current reigning champion from Season 2, sets the number 2 time as he finds himself making his way around. Of course, tonight is a livery round where the best voted livery by the MC Motorsport admins will be picking up a bit of a special prize, and see Jeremy Washington sporting the Only Dan's paintwork.
I'm just kidding. Yeah.
I did see a little bit of a preview of this paintwork earlier in the Discord, and if you look very carefully at that front right corner, you will see a little bit of a tribute to someone that he did punt off track at one point. I don't know if we're going to be able to see it, but Ryan Palmer does get a bit of a mention there. It's going to be a little bit hard to see, of course, with the glare of the lights here this evening. But what a track to be racing on. I love racing under lights with these GT3s. They look absolutely phenomenal, even if it does push the limits of what the iRacing graphics engine is capable of delivering for us on our setup. But we do look forward to seeing the race start. A rolling start here tonight, Biggles. We did see last week, and we were covering the Alliance Sim Racing V8 series at Daytona just last week, and a standing start was quite a sight to behold. Here at Daytona, very, very difficult on the banking, and MC Motorsport going with the rolling start, which is a little more traditional for this style of track, isn't it?
The rolling starts is going to, generally it's a tradition, of course, and that just helps avoid massive carnage there if you don't get it off the line in time. There, burn a clutch, things like that. They have to worry about the standing starts, but not too much about rolling starts. Rolling starts is just all about when you hear that man that says green in your ear, you go, you put that loud pedal. And of course on a Memorial Day weekend too in the States, where you have the big one, the Indy 500, of course, and the Charlotte, the Coca-Cola 500, that was all occurring. So these drivers are like, hey, we're in Florida. What about Daytona? We're here. That's exactly where we are here this weekend for, as you said, crucial race day situations deep into this championship, where you've got a lot here up for grabs. So we get that man before you mentioned Jeremy Washington. Reese Wakefield's got a lot to offer here. Danny P's got a lot. They can't afford mistakes here. Qualifying is going to be very important. You want to be up the front, my friend, going into this 2-hour endurance race.
Absolutely. If only to stay clear of the carnage that I am going to anticipate that we do see probably lap 1 through the bus stop. That's where I think it's all going to come unstuck very early on, but we'll see how these drivers go. Obviously 2 hours is a long time to be out on track. It's certainly not the longest of the enduros you can get involved in, but it is a pretty decent stint for a single driver. So, you know, we'll see if these guys do go full noise right from the green light, or if indeed we see them take a slightly safer approach and try to avoid any of the carnage that might be coming our way this evening. Fred Mortimer, the Road Racing Australia Mercedes, out on track right now, sitting in 24th, so a little bit of work to do. But even then, Biggles, you know, a second and a half from the pole position time is really not a whole lot, is it?
It's not. It's not at all. What's also amazing too, Jared, is the fact that everybody's kind of all bunched up as after they come out there for the open qualifying session too. They are not really utilising the situation on the track with them, but but bunched up together, they're going to have to see whether or not they're going to be able to. Well, hang on, I'm getting confused for a second. Open qualifying, of course, is they can see the other cars out of the track, right? So they should be able to get slipstream. Yes, that's it.
And
that's
you can take advantage of a bit of slipstream as well, which, you know, look, it's not it's a bit of a grey area really in terms of what's allowable when it comes to qualifying. Certainly, I don't expect that we'll see anyone doing any bump drafting in qualifying to try and improve their time or push a competitor or even a teammate along for that matter. As we see Brett O'Keefe making his way through the infield and through the second of the, well, we'll call them horseshoes because that's what Daytona refers to them as. They're not hairpins, they're horseshoes. I'd love to know what the difference is. Apparently something to do with the shape, but
in the United States of America, we call them horseshoes. There you go. You guys call them hairpins. So this is going to put the American.
It's just an American thing, isn't it? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Josh Benno crosses the line and sets himself a P3 on that lap, so a 144.9, enough to bounce him all the way up through the field. Certainly a competitive field as always, and looking to see just where our championship frontrunners end up in a little under 5 minutes time before we go racing for 2 hours around the Daytona road course here with MC Motorsport. The Domains2U GT3 Championship has proven to be a very, very interesting season so far, with a couple of changes of the lead and certainly no one dominating in quite the way that we might have thought would happen. Now, I'll be honest, I think the start of this season, because I had all my money on probably Reece Wakefield and Danny P, given their significant amount of time spent behind the wheel of these GT3 cars, but they certainly haven't had an easy run of it, and Jeremy Washington proving why he's got the number one on the side of his car.
With the number one on the side of his car, only 2 wins to himself, but more importantly, 10 top 5s out of the 11 starts that they've done so far. Reece Wakefield with the most amount of wins of 4 of those, and he has 8 of those top 5 finishes. My apologies on that one. As you mentioned before, they're 27 points behind Reece, and Danny P can be very, very close here. He needs to maximise on the 11 starts that he's had, and 7 of those top 5s. He can get himself another race win. He's had 2 on equal par there with Jeremy Washington. Another impressive to me is Kyle Ridley. Got to keep an eye out for that McLaren driver as well too. He's 84 points off the leader in the championships of Jeremy Washington. However, he's only started 9 times as compared to 11 the other drivers around him. He's got already that 1 race win. He's got 4 of those top 5 finishes.
Yeah, it does make you wonder, as always, with the drop rounds. You know, had he been at every round, had he finished every race, you know, where would he actually be sitting at the moment? But certainly a phenomenal competitor in amongst the top ranking drivers here this season. And it'll be very interesting to see how his season does finish up after tonight, and of course next week at Magny Corps to finish the season off. I just want to jump back to Henry King, Lone Lamborghini in the field. I reckon he's my early vote for top livery here tonight. I absolutely love this Jinx Shifters livery that he's had put together. I don't know if that's Henry's handiwork or if he just happens to have leaned on perhaps his teammate in Scott Stevens, who does quite a few of these amazing liveries. But that is a bloody good looking livery, and don't mind it at all on the Lambo. Beautiful shape, that GT3 car.
Yeah, it's like a Kapim. It is
It really
kapow.
is, isn't it?
It's like it's a comic book essentially, isn't it? And it's got a lot of eye candy all over it to read there. I wonder if Henry Kid's going to be saying that with the door banging by the cars out there going kapow, kaboom. And let's go. You can see his glowing front brake disc as well too under the lights here in Daytona. Let's start at the chat as well. Tell you what your favourite livery, of course, is. We've got to get an idea of having a look at all the different drivers and what they've managed to put together behind the scenes. I just turned my trading paints on. I forgot I had it turned off, but I was looking at the broadcasts as well. So, we'll see how it all pans out. But yes, please let us know.
Typical ADHD fashion, Josh Harris rocking the Golden Lion, the Holden livery on the Ford Mustang. Honestly, not in the least bit surprising for anyone who's been watching MC Motorsport for any length of time. Something the ADHD team loves to do is to just lean in to that little bit of brand rivalry that is, of course, so well embedded in the Australian motorsport fan psyche. And we look at Patrick Frame making his way around the Antic Motorsport livery, running the standard one here this evening, but still looking absolutely fantastic as he tries to improve from P20. And again tonight, Biggles, 20 positions down. He's only just over a second off the top pace. This is going to be a very, very tight night of racing. Strategy is going to be everything tonight, I am sure.
Yep, got to make it work. It's kind of like a Monaco GP, but you can actually overtake in. So strategy can pay favour. He should get a couple of tenths here because he's got a little Australian flag on the rear wing, on the side of the rear wing.
I think he's about to run out of time. As we come to the end of the qualifying session, these drivers unfortunately won't have time to finish their current lap. And we will go as await the official grid as qualifying comes to a close here at Daytona. We'll see the last of the drivers on track kicked from there in just a moment. And we will bring the grid to you in a second. Speaking of Monaco, though, hasn't there been a lot of chatter about that recently on all of the iRacing Reddit subreddits and various locations? It is it's an interesting one. Yeah, there certainly has been. I was wondering if that's why you brought it up. Look, I don't think there's any word of it actually coming to iRacing, but there has just been a huge amount of demand for the idea of having Monaco as part of iRacing. And
they want to laser scan it.
Yeah, I guess it's been the week for the talk about Monaco, really, hasn't it?
I don't know why they would want to bother really at the end of the day, because you can't overtake on it. But then again, there's a couple of other street circuits that you really do want to. I think it really should be. They have laser scanned a couple of tracks that are those tracks that are definitely performing only available during race weekends, so you can actually get that car out there to, of course, at 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever, and laser scan as much as you can there. Take it back into the developer house there and crunch it out. I think there's a couple of those that they're going to be planning on. Let us know if you know what those are. I was told that the other day. But why Monte Carlo? I mean,
look,
pretty sure that the people that are in iRacing aren't multi-millionaires, all the sponsors and developers and stuff like that. Well, I mean, all those people that are involved that come to watch the Monaco GP race. Actually, most of the time they don't sit there and watch the race. They just sit there and chat to other people.
But they do.
They're invited.
Just reminded myself, actually, that, of course, tonight being a single race event, we don't have the usual issue of iRacing kicking people out from open qualifying at exactly the finishing time. So these drivers out on track are actually going to get the opportunity to finish their current laps, which is an awesome bit of news for people like Patrick Frame, who finds himself a little further through the grid than he was before, moving up from 20th to 19th. But he's got an opportunity to improve that here. James Bunker just crossing the line now and will remain in 9th place at the moment. Aaron Gilbert will be the next one to finish his last lap. We'll see what he can pull out of the hat here, but doesn't look like improving his time, with Henry King and Ian Ward not too far behind either, as they make their way around. Not improving on their best sectors at this stage.
Usual suspects are most likely going to be at the top of the timesheets in no particular order of the championship, but there it is, my friend. There is your starting grid.
So we start with none other than Reece Wakefield and Danny P on the front row. And yeah, look, can't say I am overly surprised, but of course, Jeremy Washington right there behind them, and Dean Jacobson finishing up in at 4th. Josh Benno and Aaron Schotter behind them, ahead of Kyle Ridley and Mick Polly. Then James Bunker and Ryan Palmer round out the top 10, with Mitch Curry and Aaron Gilbert right behind them. James Tahani and Henry King on row 7 ahead of Dean Power and James Lawrence. Then Ian Ward and Patrick Frame line up ahead of Charlie Milliken and Simon Caplet to round out your top 20. Josh Harris and Nick Clydesdale alongside each other. Then Wiley Blair and Dan Mirko on row number 12, with Trev Mortimer and Dylan Thomas behind them. Chris Lashbrook, the last in the field. Brett O'Keefe, not sure why he's not shown up properly there. We'll have to get that sorted out for him. But Pete Minette and Nathan Allen, of course, driving the safety car this evening as we get ready to go racing here in race number 1. Biggles, it's, well, race number 1, it's the only race tonight, isn't it? It's
exactly.
always throws me completely.
We're going to have 2 endurance races. We're going to do a reverse grid for another 2 hours. I mean, the drivers will be like, no, thank you very much. I'm going to be really sweaty in my rig for 2 hours, and then they can jump out there and do it all over again. So it's going to be interesting. What's going to be interesting is those top 3 going into the turn 1. Wow. We're going to be very, very taking that one easy, gentlemen. It's going to be, Danny P and Reese Wakefield, and of course, Jeremy Washington on the second row behind them. I would want to make sure you get your popcorn out, get your fold-up chair, and sit in that turn 1 and enjoy the show.
Yeah, it'll be a very interesting one, I'm sure. And will be more interesting. I don't think I've seen a rolling start in the longest time, honestly. So not quite sure how this is going to go. I'm sure it'll be cleaner than we probably would have expected from a standing start here. But yeah, I don't know how turn 1's going to go. We're going to be at such a higher pace than we ordinarily would be, and it does beg the question: Are we setting ourselves up for a pretty big moment right into turn 1 on lap 1 of this 2-hour time slot?
I don't know how you got it there, Jared, but you've got the disco happening down there, as you can see, trackside before the lights. So he's managed to get them to do a chasing effect on there, and all the floodlights that are lighting up the track.
You are so welcome.
Hats off for that one there. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting because when will the pace car come out? Will it come out? That's going to be a big question as well too, because you tend to find in endurance races that you get those spread out eventually over a period of time, but then you got those strategies, those pit stops are going to come and play. Also shenanigans, the infield, as the paper clips, as what we like to call them, of course, as well. 2 of those turns, it's got it all. You could just basically skip the infield if you want, just go absolutely straight on into turn 1 and turn 2 there and keep the banking elevation. However, pretty sure you're going to get a slowdown there from race control.
Yeah, it will be a very, very interesting first lap, and of course the news being handed down in the Discord this evening. That solid, or that double yellow line at the bottom of the track is absolutely sacred tonight. Anyone seen crossing that line will be copying themselves a penalty immediately with no warnings handed out this evening. So hopefully the drivers have all taken heed of that and will be staying well above it as they make their way around the banking here tonight. The admin team giving drivers a couple of extra minutes to get gridded up tonight, and given it's a 2-hour race, I feel like there's probably a few bathroom visits involved right now. What do you reckon, Biggles?
Oh yeah, of course. It's the last chance you had. Grab yourself a drink to get hydrated, stuff like that, or get your little water bottle next to you, or whatever you like to consume when you're drinking during the race. I would imagine probably not drink or drive anything but basically water or something like that to keep you hydrated, keep you focused, because you don't want to get tired in towards the end of this race, because that's when mistakes start to creep in. So got to be sharp, you got to be unfocused, and for that whole 2-hour race is not an easy thing to do, especially even more at night time, isn't it? Because you just got headlights there. You guys try to find your braking markers, of course, in the night time here at Daytona. There's a lot at play here, not to mention just of course there's a championship as well on the line for some of these drivers, so add more
plenty to
pressure.
play for. Absolutely. We are getting very close to going green here. Marshall's just issuing the final calls to get the drivers to the track as we wait on the last 5 or 6 drivers, I think, now to make their way back. Hopefully they're going to make it there in time. because we are getting ready to go racing the pace car, just about ready to move away, and we will wait now for the green flag to wave and the pace car to move off on this formation lap. And there it is. We've gotten word through from race control. We are ready to go racing. Wait now as the pace car sets up, and we begin the roll. These drivers, I'm sure, will be feeling pretty anxious behind the pace car, wanting to get the best start that they possibly can.
Track temperature about 24 degrees at the moment with about 4 km/h winds. It shouldn't be too much of a problem. I'm not quite sure the exact direction of the winds, but at 2 or so kilometres, switching between that shouldn't be too much of a problem with a headwind or a tailwind for these drivers. That they'll be racing on May the 25th at 10 p.m. at night, local track time.
You see that Trevor Waterwell will be starting from the pits for this one, so I think he may have just fallen short of getting back in time for the start. As the field rolls off the banking, we'll see the pace car pulling in here as we get ready to go racing. Reese Wakefield and Danny P will control the field as we make our way around to the start-finish line. Here we go. And green flag, we are underway for 2 hours of racing here at Daytona. We make our way down to turn 1, the field already at pace. Of course, 3 wide. Kyle Ridley looking to insert himself up the middle of a couple of cars here. So far, so good. Everyone just settling in to their rhythm, and Reese Wakefield already starting to just pull away out in front and give himself a little bit of space to work with as we make our way through the first of the horseshoes. Jeremy Washington has made his way up alongside Danny P and indeed starts to pull ahead just slightly. You see Mitch Curry getting through there as well as we head on down towards the second horseshoe, and it looks like Dean Jacobson looking a little worse for wear in the background. It looks as though he's just run off track there, unfortunately, and thankfully not too much damage done. But towards the front of the field, Jeremy Washington starting to settle into his rhythm as he looks to tack onto the back of Reese Wakefield. Danny P will be immediately, though, in his slipstream as we make our way through the first of the banked corners, and here they come at full noise. And already a gap starting to open up. Aaron Schotter in 4th. Starts to fall a little further behind. It will be interesting to see as we get to the bus stop for the first time just whether we can make it through here cleanly.
Cleanly is the key so far in this endurance race, and they are all practically behaving, which is good because they realise, hey, you can absolutely lose this race on in the first couple of laps, and it's not wise to do so. It's wise to get yourself in a position and get those overtakes done a little bit further into this one, but don't be too if-gap car-ish. Perhaps a little bit of blinking of lights too down the backstretch as well too from some of the drivers. It looks like this might be a 3-way action happening there as well. Early days for that, but
Get some drivers want to make some.
Yeah, exactly. There it is.
Ryan Palmer, the clown look on his livery this evening, probably about the most appropriate thing I can think for him to have on his car. Kyle Ridley making his way up the inside of Mick Polly now and gets the pass done at the horseshoe. He's now looking at the back of Josh Benno's Porsche. Just ahead of them, Aaron Schotter. So a pack here in the battle for 4th, probably about 10 cars deep by my count, but I wouldn't rely on my math on any given night. Reese Wakefield, Jeremy Washington and Danny P all out in front and staying in a tight little group just ahead of the battle that you're seeing here on screen. As we head on out to the bank section once again, it's a reasonably clean start, I'd have to say, all round. Probably a little more than I expected. Charlie Milliken, though, struggling a little bit to hold off some of his competitors as Clydesdale makes his way through. The paintwork there, an interesting one. I'm not sure if he's a little confused about perhaps which number his car is, because I can see about 8 different numbers scattered across that paintwork as Milliken looks to the inside. They're coming to the bus stop here, and Clydesdale will have to outbrake him to hold his position. At this stage, though, probably a little bit early to get too involved in that sort of battle, and wisely pulls out of it. Got Simon Caplet off the infield there. Josh Benno further up, meanwhile, has Kyle Ridley right on his tail as the two of them push forward, trying to catch up to Aaron Schotter as they come around past start-finish line. Ridley with the slipstream certainly has the pace, but quite content for the moment to just sit in behind. Danny P setting the fastest lap, a 1:44.87. The first of the drivers just about to get into the 44. Although, to be fair, Jeremy Washington at 44.97 on that lap, so not too far off that either.
Yeah, exactly. He just set the fastest lap on there, keeping with the top two there, Reese Wakefield and Jeremy Washington. And Joshua was putting a little bit of pressure on Aaron at the moment in that P4 position as those top three are starting to break away just a little bit down the road by almost 3-second gap actually to the P4 driver, as we are, of course, in Daytona. Let's go again.
Absolutely. It's quite a gap actually opening up to those top three, and I wonder a little bit around whether this might be already the start of the strategy play from Schotter. Is he thinking right from the beginning a bit of fuel saving to perhaps just utilise one less pit stop over the length of this race? I'm not quite sure what to expect in terms of strategy here tonight, Biggles. We know that a GT3 car on a full tank can run for about an hour. We know they don't get given a full tank as Josh Benno makes a big dive up the inside of Schotter on the way through the bus stop, and Ridley now will be looking to make his way past as well, I'm sure. It does make me think that, maybe Schotter is actually playing for fuel here, because that was a much slower pace. He's certainly just rolling into those corners. He's coming off the throttle a bit and trying to save a little bit of fuel. I figure we've seen before about, probably a half hour or so before they need to make a pit stop on this initial load of fuel. Maybe he's going to try and get away with making just the one stop here tonight across the 2 hours, but that's a big ask.
You can see at the moment there, once he let Josh through, he got the slipstream in behind. He could have slingshotted around there and tried to attack him back to get it, but he didn't. He elected to sit in there and allowed Joshua to be the one basically braking all the air, punching a hole into the air, which would consume a little bit more gasoline. So that could be very much a strategy. He's going to have the likes there of Mick and James as well too, Ryan Palmer and Aaron all tucked up behind there. That'll be an interesting situation you mentioned later on. If you could save a whole pit stop, that's quite a bit, and quite a bit of time that you'll save. But it's a big stretch as well. It also means that you're going to be running off the pace quite a bit, and if you want to get those leaders get too far off down the road, otherwise then all of a sudden that whole strategy ain't going to pay off.
Yeah, it's an interesting one to take, and I don't know whether. Look, I mean, it could be a genius move. We'll keep an eye on Aaron Schotter as the night progresses. But 6.5 minutes in, and already a 3.2 second lead for that front three suggests to me that they are running very, very different strategies. The question is, how much fuel are you going to save versus the pit stop time? Daytona is not a particularly long pit, so I'd be expecting pit stop time somewhere in the region of maybe 45 seconds, 50 seconds end to end. So yeah, it's not going to save a huge amount of time on a 1:45 lap. You might be able to make up a minute on them. If you're already up to 3.5, 4 seconds, it's a big question. 1:44.87.
Let's say for example we're on lap 5 so far in this race, and the gap to the leader down to the last place man of Trev is currently 37, so they're almost a pit stop in hand, but that's for our race leaders up the road there. And if you're talking about 45-second pit stop, if Reese comes in right now, who'd be plumped last, but there's no need for him to come in right now. He's just seeing some fantastic battling through the infield at the moment, and you're going to maybe see a little bit more of this in the infield, because they've got a lot more places to gain than they do to lose.
So as we see Dan Merker pushing hard, trying to find a way past Chris Lashbrook at the moment, getting caught up in it a bit, and Nick Clydesdale just taking advantage to sneak up a little closer behind and just close the gap before they make their way to the second of the horseshoes on the infield. Further up, Josh Harris under similar sort of pressure. He has Brett O'Keefe all over the back of his Mustang. He's going to need to nail the exit here out onto the banking in order to get the pace up and stay ahead. But O'Keefe, of course, will have the benefit of the slipstream as they make their way down towards the bus stop at a rate of knots.
Yeah, but whether or not he'll overtake, we'll just be happy to sit in behind too. That's the patience that you've got to have here in endurance racing. You don't necessarily have to just go for the overtakes, and it looks like he's happy just to tuck in behind at the moment through the bus stop there and not do anything too crazy. This will be obviously a good exit from the bus stop. Will give you an indication whether or not he's going to be happy to tuck in there, or if he, as soon as you watch this, if he does stick his nose out there and start breaking the air, you'll see that they almost equal in speed there, as he'll get the momentum up near the fence, and it'll actually help on the this is the thing, so your racing line essentially in turn one is almost even Stevens, you'd have to say, because I'd have to say there was really no massive adventure. Both drivers here could easily get the jump into this, and you're going to see it there around the outside perhaps, but the inside line then will swing around, and then you can cut back through there. At this point there is what's a switcheroo in the positions there with Brent O'Keefe.
And James Salhani as well, the red SLM entry with the orange LEDs in the window. He's made his way up a little and looking to just try and fight through. Patrick Frome shuts the door on him there. Salhani down a few spots from the start, so not the night we would be hoping to see for him. A 5-second time penalty for Ian Ward after contact with car number 118, which would be... I think he's probably talking James Salhani, actually, the 188. So I'm expecting that's a typo from our race control, which does happen after all. And a racing incident deemed for the earlier contact between three cars on lap number 4. So plenty of action going on out there as Charlie Milliken looks to go around the outside of Dean Jacobson back here in the battle for 20th. He's not going to quite get there, so he's going to have to tuck in. And you were saying before, because, you know, you can be content to just sit in behind someone. You don't need to be overtaking on every lap in an endurance race. And certainly the tactic can be to stay behind and save a little bit of fuel as well. As we see the front three really condensing now. Jeremy Washington getting right in behind Reese Wakefield. Goes a little bit wider on the entry here, and Danny P has a look up the inside, thinks about pushing his way through. Not quite going to get there. Once again, Washington finding himself sandwiched between the two Antic Motorsports cars, and it's an all too familiar place for him at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, these three at the moment are 4-second gapped out of Joshua, so no, it's not massively gaining at the moment once Josh is there, where he's got that whole snake behind him as well, so they're not letting him go as far forward up the road as what I thought these three might get away with. But these three are just happy to sit there and follow each other at the moment. We'll follow Reese Wakefield in the lead, and we'll see how that pans out later on for those drivers for their pit stop strategies. If these three are going to be equal, Stevens on their pit stops, or something to switch it up there and try the undercut or the overcut.
And this is the thing, I think they've gone out pretty hard early on and opened that gap up, but maybe at this point they've realised, well, okay, no one's coming with us. We can afford to back off a little bit, save ourselves a little bit of fuel. And maybe that'll be enough to keep us competitive. Aaron Schotter continues to just circulate around. He's the one I'm keeping an eye on from a fuel-saving perspective. Kyle Ridley's still in behind Aaron Schotter as they make their way through the bus stop, so he hasn't to push his way through, because Josh Benno just hasn't really pulled away out in front after making the pass on Schotter earlier. The thing I am noticing, a lot more space in between the cars here than they need to really be effective in the slipstream. They really need to tighten these packs up to get the benefit out of the high speed around this banking, or those front three are going to continue to pull away. And the gap continues to widen every single lap. We're out to 4.5 seconds there for just a moment. And still plenty more. Kyle Ridley deep under brakes. Closes up behind Aaron Schotter as we go to the infield once again. So far, though, everyone feeling very settled, it seems. I haven't seen too much desperation here. Mick Polly late on the brakes in the Porsche, just staying clear of the rear bar of Ridley's McLaren. But yeah, no early pit stops, no unique or bold strategies emerging just yet. Just everyone settling into the rhythm so they can stay out there for the full 2 hours, and I think everyone just keen to to keep it tidy and keep the cars in one piece, avoid too much time spent in the pits with repairs.
This is the rhythm of the night.
Ooh, breaking into song already, Biggers.
Yeah, just I thought when you said that, getting into the rhythm, of course, at night time here at Daytona. And that's right. Well, you were saying they should be bunching up. What, like NASCAR? Are you expecting them to be bumper to bumper, door to door? I mean, it's a very risky for the biscuit in the GT3s, but
it is a little, and perhaps no bump drafting. They may not need to be that close, but certainly there's a lot more to be gained by, and particularly in terms of fuel saving, by getting right in slipstream. You can see Dan Mirko in probably what I'd consider the ideal spot behind Dylan Thomas. Nice and close, taking advantage of the aero there. And Thomas starts to close in behind Lashbrook now as well. Just keeping it really, really tight, minimising fuel usage. Thomas, though, going for the overtake as they head towards the bus stop. Has a big look. He's going to have to slow it right down, though. So just showing the headlights, letting Lashbrook know that he's there. One to keep an eye on that battle. Dean Power now under pressure from Aaron Gilbert as they make their way across the start-finish line. Power under some enormous pressure as they come into turn one and head for the infield. But then, of course, Mitch Curry right behind as well. The trio of Mustangs, actually 4 Mustangs with Ryan Palmer tacked on the back as well. It seems like no matter where we look tonight, there's a forward. I am impressed they haven't. Yeah, I'm impressed they haven't ended up off the track as yet. Talhani looks to the inside, and
Charlie has gone off track. Come to speak of it at the moment, but that's not the forward. And that looks like it's very, very close to the fence there for the number 4. We have to look at it. He's probably one of the first victims, you'd have to say, here tonight at Daytona. But it doesn't look like there's a lot of damage on that. I think he might have just saved potentially a lot of damage when the fence come out. The fence came out and hit him. I know that fence on report, but we'll find out soon exactly what happened.
The iRacing Designs replay showing us that he's just overcooked it a bit on the way into that turn. Ooh. I do wonder if the missing rear bar had anything to do with it.
He's already had damage from before, yeah, exactly. I just noticed that.
But thankfully not too much, a fairly low speed impact. It is going to do a little bit of damage, but not as much as perhaps it could have done. So hopefully not a great deal of repairs required there. Nick Clydesdale also appears to have had a bit of an issue. We'll have a look at this on the way into the horseshoe. Just getting it a little bit too deep under brakes, manages to keep it under control, and thankfully no one else around to T-bone him at this stage. So about the best he could have hoped for in terms of outcome.
Yeah, good recovery. He got
Absolutely.
on the anchors, just engaged it into gear a little bit there, and realised there was nobody else coming around the corner there, got on the gasoline pretty quickly, and then scooted off to continue this race. Beauty of endurance races, of course, little mistakes like that, you've got plenty of time to battle your way back up through the field. That didn't break off speed places as well, too. Top 3 getting very close. You said it, I think they had the call up there. They said, okay, boys, let's drive like NASCAR.
It's the way to go, honestly. Look, maybe not so much for Reese Wakefield out in front. He's got the unenviable task at the moment of really cutting through the air and making a hole in it for these other 2 behind them. But Washington and Danny P have the opportunity to take full advantage of that and just reduce their fuel usage a bit as they make their way around the banked section. And, every lap is going to count here. We're only, 17 minutes into this 2 hours, and already they could be seeing a fairly substantial difference in the amount of fuel used if they're managing to take advantage of that slipstream. Again, all 3 of them fairly spaced out, so there doesn't seem to be too much of an urgency to try and stay in that aerodynamic tunnel.
Urgent. It's 3.5 seconds now, so actually, believe it or not, that second pack that's in that P4, led by the P4 position there of Joshua, they've sliced about half a second out of that. It was just approaching about just over 4 seconds gap those top 3 had. Now 3.6. So very, very interesting situation. We did see Charlie head in the pit road. He is in the pit road currently at the moment there. Tried to ding out the repairs, and he's just exiting pit road. So after he saw that little bit of moment, I wonder if they put the bumper on attached to the back of his car. I'm just checking. Yes, so they patched it all up there. He's back out.
Pass done. Finds himself out in front. So he just managed to make his pass way past Wakefield. Looks like he's under brakes there into turn 1. We'll go back and take a quick look on the iRacing Designs replay, and coming around the outside at start-finish line. Wakefield perhaps just a little bit too defensive, and Washington taking full advantage, going to the outside, opening up that corner, and establishes himself out in front on this lap. Maybe just giving Wakefield a bit of a break. I don't know. It could be that Wakefield's decided intentionally to back it off there and start thinking about fuel saving himself. We'll have to keep an eye on this and see how many times they do trade positions, and whether Washington maybe tries to hand the position back at some stage and tuck back in to conserve just a little bit more fuel. A half litre a lap would make a huge difference in about an hour's time.
Who needs gasoline? That's all right. You can go grab the moonshine and grab Puppy holders in the back of the car there and use that as for a little bit of gasoline to run on these cars. But yeah, you're absolutely right, of course, in all seriousness. You do need to worry about that situation as Jeremy Washington, the only Dan's entry, only Dan's in the lead for Reese Wakefield and Danny P. Those three similar, of course, in the championship standings as well.
Trying to figure out what on earth has happened to Josh Harris, who did start the race, but has just dropped out of the event not too long ago. So he appears to be out of the car at the moment. Has jumped to pits and has just left pits now. So I'm not quite sure what's happened there or how he's ended up so far back. May have had perhaps something else to attend to in the real world, and is now going to have a bit of a fight on his hands to get back into this one and remain competitive. Meanwhile, as we jump further back
the trash out.
Well, look, who knows, right? Yeah, who knows? So Harney and Frame continue to battle on, with Henry King staying attached at the hip to them. They make their way through the first horseshoe on the infield. And Salhani, the inside line here, but Frame has the pace out of the corner. Three of them just cannot seem to get separated, and also can't seem to close the gap to the cars in front. Brett O'Keefe a little over 4 seconds ahead. Salhani up the inside, deep under brakes, manages to pull it up, just keeping it off the grass there. But Patrick Frame again around the outside. He's got phenomenal grip out of that car. And McLaren just really struggling to match the pace. Meanwhile, Henry King in that Lamborghini fairly content to sit back and just stay out of the way in case there is a coming together here of the two cars ahead of him.
You get a nice bird's eye view of that battle up the road there from him. Dylan Thomas did go on a pit road as well, so it looked like he might have blinked out in and out there for a second, just sorting it out. For the Fishy Motorsports entry, he should come back out on track. And, well, he wants to get out of pit road because he wouldn't be too far up the road, just up the road from these two that you see on your screen battling. But thankfully, yeah, he may actually be coming out of pit road, very similar to where they come flying around. But no, he should be out. Yes, he will. Just ahead of the Jeremy Washington, Reese Wakefield, and Danny P show.
So there you go. We're starting to see perhaps a couple of different strategies emerging. Dylan Thomas spending just shy of 38 seconds in his pit box, a total of just over a minute in the pit lane. That'll be a very, very full fuel tank that he's just taken on. I reckon he's probably going to be aiming at only stopping once more for this race. The question will be, what do we see in terms of safety cars tonight that might play a little bit of havoc with the plans of some of these early stoppers? You see Wakefield just going very, very late on the brakes, closing right up behind Washington as they come through the horseshoe.
They're close.
Look, I don't know what to expect. Ian Ward and Simon Caplet both into the pits now. So look, we are getting to that
head back to the
25-minute mark.
Head back to that battle there with Henry King as well too, and James, because they're going for it too for now. Like it's the dying last 10-15 minutes of this race. They're battling it out there. We did see there's Ian Warder and Simon heading into pit road as well too early. Alternative strategies going for those drivers. As you mentioned there about the safety car operators, that's Pete and Nathan sitting there patiently down there in pit road in the safety cars, waiting to see if they're going to get called out to do a couple laps themselves.
Yeah, I don't imagine that we'll see too much of it tonight, but anything can happen, of course. The long race, the view back from Henry King's car, you can see them topping out at just under 270 k's an hour as they get to the bus stop and slow it right down. It's amazing how much pace that actually does take out of the race, going through that little chicane there. Otherwise, you'd probably see these cars hitting somewhere up around 300 if they're set up and geared for it by the time they actually make their way into the start-finish line. So it does introduce a little bit more driving strategy into it compared to just having the open banking, as we see Salhani head for the pits. He's decided it's time for him to go
Joshua.
in.
Joshua from
Bennett's gone
P4
as well. There you go.
Yeah, he went in. So we're starting to see those first round of pit stops occurring with the drivers. So you've got, give or take, about half a dozen that have headed in the pit road right now, with about 3 more of Joshua, James, Chris heading in. So interesting to see up the front as well too, with Danny P, Reese and Jeremy. When are they going to start looking at doing that as a switcheroo? Reese Wakefield. And what's happened? Jeremy, something's happened big time here. They've approached some traffic. Jeremy Washington, as you can see, he's got in the ticker.
What they have. Let's go back and take a look and see what happened here. Oh, big contact from Wakefield. Yeah, Wakefield into the back of Washington. And yeah, look, both cars stopping there. I think Wakefield just redressing that immediately, but that's caught them right back into the pack that was behind. So
yeah, I thought that was lap traffic already, but it wasn't. Of course, that was the rest of the field that was catching up. That had been catching up to them, and just like that, you got Reese Wakefield down at P7, Jeremy Washington at P5. Now, they shouldn't be too peeved about that one because it's still way early days, of course, and he's still inside that top 10.
How's Danny
P to show you.
now?
Yeah, he's got 4 seconds. He's got that 4-second gap up the road. That can be good for Danny P. He's got a little bit of a situation where he can kind of he can control the strategy a little bit more without the pressure of anybody else behind him. There's Mick and Reese Wakefield heading the pit road. Dean Powell, Mitch Curry, Ryan Palmer also heading in too.
And Kyle Ridley, you see, just passing the front of shot there. He's also got himself a nice little gap, not quite as big, but a second and a half over Aaron Schotter. So he's enjoying a little bit more space up in P2 at the moment. And yeah, certainly the first round of pit stops happening. You can see a bunch of cars now starting to come through for their first stop. So we'll probably get somewhere in the vicinity of an hour of racing before we see the next round of pit stops, assuming no safety cars happen between now and then. It is, of course, all going to depend on fuel usage. Aaron Schotter, just keep an eye on him. Again, we saw him just perhaps trying to save a little bit of fuel. I'll be very interested to see how many more laps he manages to put in before he decides to actually come in and top that tank up.
Now, you said you thought they'd have an hour? You said an hour for the tyres, right? Not for the gasoline, of course.
No, the fuel itself. You'd get about an hour out of that. Out of the full
25
tank.
minutes into this one, but they didn't have a full tank.
They don't start with a full tank, no. The fixed setup these guys run is around about a half tank. So you can see the drive's getting pretty close to the end of that. Now, of course, the other thing to note is that fuel usage at a track like this with such high speeds for such a sustained period is going to be very, very heavy on fuel usage. It takes a lot of fuel and a lot of power to keep moving these cars through the air at 250 plus k an hour. So it will use more fuel than you'd think each lap. But it also represents a huge opportunity for drivers to save a bit of fuel. If you can coast even just the last couple hundred meters before you do enter the turns, it is actually going to save a significant amount of fuel. As you see, everyone from that front 5, 6, 7, 8 cars go into the pits, with the exception of Jeremy Washington, who stays out. And let's see just what he's got to perceive. Aaron Schotter goes in, so look, maybe not the fuel-saving genius move that we were thinking it might be, but we'll have to wait and see. Still a long way to go in this race.
And what's interesting, you did mention, because once they do gas it up and they have a heavy car, I've seen the drivers, since they came down, a lot of the drivers that came down earlier and did that pit stop, they are currently at the moment doing 51s, 52s. It's a bit over the shot there, but that's interesting. 46s, those times are a little bit wrong there, but that's just a lot slower pace than what we saw on those drivers currently that are running on vapors, essentially. So the more the Jeremy Washington can stay out, put those banker laps in with those drivers that come out heavy fuel load, that should slot him back out in P1 if he doesn't make any mistakes here.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see just how far ahead he ends up. The next car out on track right now, Danny P's just come out of the pits. He finds himself 54 seconds back after 1 minute and 16 in pit road. So, look, Washington's going to want to extract the best he can out of this while keeping a very close eye on that gap to Danny P and making sure that it does continue to extend. Absolutely clean air, no one battling around him. You've got to take advantage of this.
I got a feeling he's going to come out with a good gap here. because once again, he could stretch it out. Remember, those drivers that come in pit road are going to be heavy. They're not going to, their outlaps aren't going to be magnificent. So here it is, Jeremy's in. So he makes this perfect here. He wants to target in the box about 38 or so seconds. 39 or so seconds is what the average has been there, stationary. Once he gets that gasoline in, where's the rest of the field? Well, they're just beginning to start the backstretch right now from 970 of Daddy P. Hasn't even come up to the bus stop yet, so we'll see how that pans out. But if Washington has nailed this one perfectly, the man from Adelaide, he might be ringing those church bells in the lead.
One can only hope. We'll see how it all pans out. Danny P. Out on his own, still that 4-second gap, although it's closing now as Kyle Ridley starts to reel him in ever so slightly on each lap. Josh Benno right with Ridley as Ridley goes high and lets Benno go through on the lower line. Ridley dropping him behind. Will take advantage of the slipstream to get back up to pace here. Now you can see Washington still in his pit box, a very, very long stop. He should be just about done with taking on fuel. However, because he's extended... Look, he's extended that run a little further. And that gives you a bit of an idea of just how much of a difference the amount of fuel does make. Washington's spent 42.5 seconds in his pit box to Danny P's 38.5. So it took an extra 4 seconds of fuel for that extra lap.
That could make the difference, yeah. If once again he stays out, obviously, for an extra 4 or so laps, let's say maybe 2 or 3 extra laps once the rest of the field go down for their second pit stop later on, that could be given the advantage. He didn't have enough time, unfortunately, a couple of laps under his belt to really take advantage of the situation of lighter fuel load in a quicker time. But we'll see that definitely pans out a little bit later on for the number 1 McLaren machine. He should get back onto the end of the snake there of Reese Wakefield too, so he won't have to drop too much time being all by himself. He should get back into that slipstream.
Yeah, I'm just trying to do the maths. I think from memory, and it's a vague memory, so forgive me out there in the chat if I'm too far off the mark, but I believe the GT3s take on fuel at somewhere between about 2 and 2.5 litres per second. So we might be talking anywhere up to 10 extra litres that it took out of Washington's tank by putting in that extra lap before getting to refuel, but that could come in very, very handy. You know, if that is just 1 extra lap of fuel that he's taken on, then that just compounds the next time they come in for those pit stops, and it may even just mean that he has to take on a few seconds less fuel, perhaps even more than that, when they do come to a second, or if they do need a third stop, and that could be the difference later on in this race. Mitch Curry goes low, Dean Jacobson high, Dean Power rather, goes high in the Black Hawk Motorsport Mustang. He's going to have to keep an eye on Brett O'Keefe, who's looking up the inside as well as they make their way to the start-finish line. And Dean Power just perhaps looking to drop off the back of this battle for 10th. Mitch Curry, though, quite happy to be out in front at the moment. Ryan Palmer right behind O'Keefe's McLaren. And the Mustangs continue to be just about everywhere tonight, Biggles.
Now I'll give it to this delivery to Ryan Palmer that's just behind there. Have a look at that. He's got the nose on it like a clown livery at the front of that one. Very, very good. That's probably, it's very close to my pick at the moment, I have to say, of the fantastic liveries, of course, that little livery competition that you're going to be having on this one too. Chat's been pretty quiet about that one as to their picks this evening. Thank you very much for tuning in. Interesting situation you mentioned there about that fuel, and just to give you an indication as well too, those drivers before, when they were running practically on vapors before the first pit stops, they're doing close to 45s, early 45s, late 44s. Now on average they're doing late 45s, so they're essentially about almost a second a lap slow on heavier fuel loads.
Yeah, it is making a huge difference. Of course, there'll be a little bit of time for the tyres to get up to temp as well, which will slow them down a little, but this infield doesn't really take too much out of the tyres, and the banking certainly heats the tyres up very, very quickly on your outlap, so I can't imagine that's making a huge difference. It really is down to fuel load. That extra weight just adds so much more to this lap, as you see Ryan Palmer getting right on the back of O'Keefe's McLaren. That's what I like to see. That's what you want to see around the banking. Take full advantage of that slipstream.
I wonder if he's afraid of clowns at the moment, because he's got one right in his gearbox. Right in his gearbox. He's going to be giving him a nice little nudge along there to see whether or not they're going to get past Mitch Curry if they can with the slipstream. This is This is whip banging. This is door banging at its finest, and that's essentially NASCAR driving here in the home of NASCAR in Daytona. Of course, the GT3s have now invaded the Americas.
Absolutely, they have. Dean Jacobson coming around the outside of James Salhani as they come into turn one. Salhani deep under brakes. Jacobson looking for a better line from wider out there. He's not going to get it, but he has closed the gap even further. Now just 1.5 tenths off the back of that McLaren, the Porsche, for the BE Electrical race on Oz entry. Showing its ability, as always. The Porsche's a popular choice amongst these races. And got to say, I still can't decide which of the GT3s is my favourite. Still the notable absence this season has been the Ferrari, though.
Yeah, the Ferrari, come on, they did it right. Just spoiler alert there in Monte Carlo. You know, Charles was pretty much devastated that he couldn't put it on pole, and that's all important. If you ever want to watch the Monaco GP highlights, just watch that qualifying highlights, and then you know exactly what can happen in the race after that one.
Yeah, it's not a lot of passing at Monaco, is there?
No, of course not. They tried it in the F2s and the F3s and ended up on top of each other. But that's the situation. Cole putting pressure at the moment on Joshua for the P2 position. He's happy just to sit in there behind there and let Joshua know that he is there. How important is it going to be lifting off a little bit when you approach turn one, because somebody has to break first.
Let's go on board with Ridley for a lap here and see if we can get a bit of a view of just how close behind Josh Benno he actually sits. Because he's definitely tucked right in underneath that giant rear spoiler on the Porsche GT3 car.
Reach out, give him a handshake. You're close enough too.
Absolutely, just passing through the window at this point. Ridley left the gap open up just a little on the exit of the first horseshoe. Then of course his dogleg left. It's a brave one, because if you do try and cut it too fine, you'll put those left wheels into the dirt and lose a huge amount of traction, but you really do need to take it at full pace and straighten the line out as much as possible through the second horseshoe, back to the right, and then this entry onto the bank section. It is incredibly wide, so it's far too easy to misjudge that and end up just losing a lot of pace as you have to slow down as you come onto banking. And we'll see Benno getting a much better run onto the banking, really dropping back a half a second, but we'll look at him start to close it up as the slipstream helped him to just catch that gap down to 4 tenths now and closing on the way to the bus stop. Now apparently...
Yeah, keep an eye, Carl. Yeah, go ahead.
Apparently not called a bus stop here. The official name is Le Mans Chicane. I can't get behind that.
I'm surprised anyway, because the American public transport system, apart from Chicago and New York and stuff like that, isn't very good. So I'm probably like, what's a bus stop? You've got to use your car, you've got to jam up those freeways and spend hours and hours getting to work. But there's a slipstream you mentioned right there. As he goes past the Geico Rico's zone, which means that turn one will be approaching pretty quickly at the moment, and he won't do anything too crazy. You've got to remember too, he's got steering wheels memories to also worry a little bit about. But this is another thing too in endurance racing. If you get out by yourself there, you can get a little bit into a robotic routine, and the fatigue creeping a little bit. But there's no fatigue creeping in when you got cars to the front and cars to the back of you all around the place. So it'll keep you awake, that's for sure. There's your coffee fix, essentially. Get on iRacing and then go wheel to wheel with other drivers. You won't need coffee after that.
Mitch Curry continuing to battle with O'Keefe here. Goes very, very wide on the exit of the horseshoe, but puts himself in a beautiful position to set up for the left-hand turn here. And again, just really establishing that Mustang out in front. Comes through the second horseshoe.
Look at behind too.
Speed. Dean Powell and Ryan Palmer side by side in the background. Palmer making it through as Dean Powell will settle in behind for the run here. Powell gets a very, very nice line up onto the banking, so he's going to be right on Palmer's tail. Let's see how these four go. Dean Powell, though, has learned a little bit perhaps from watching Palmer on the last lap, and he has tucked right in behind that clown Mustang and starts to poke the nose out here as we get to the bus stop.
He's also got Ronald McDonald on the side of that one for Ryan Palmer, so whether he'll be loving this or not, but he certainly will be enjoying a Daytona. This is also, remember, what drivers are doing for dress rehearsals, because when push comes to shove and essentially at the end of this race, in a chunk of change, of course, an hour and a half or so. That's your overtaking opportunity on the last lap to see if you can slingshot around there and try to beat the driver up the road from you and get that position gain. So, practice those overtakes early as well too, because when push comes to shove, you're going to leave them later on.
Yeah, the exit from the bus stop is absolutely critical here, because if you can get the momentum coming out of there, that's going to set you up beautifully to take someone at the line. And right now, an hour and 20 to go, maybe not feeling so important, but it absolutely will be if you're locked in that last lap battle, and all that's going to separate us at the line is a couple of thousandth. You're going to want to make sure that you're coming through there with the most pace that you possibly can. Kyle Ridley continuing his battle with Josh Benno and Aaron Gilbert right on his tail in the Team Jinx Shifters Mustang as well.
Yeah, exactly. And as I said, like you practice a couple of those. You practice the exit from the bus stop, and then you're going to know, as we're going to see a little bit of a replay.
James Sahani gets it spun around on turn one.
Without the marbles, is that some of those marbles and some of the traction loss that's occurring already in this race, that you get out the dirty stuff and there's no traction there?
There absolutely will be already. I mean, 40 minutes in, that's plenty of time for debris to be getting thrown off to the outside of the track there, and a lot of drivers have been taking that outside line. So, it's going to be something they have to consider. Are they going to be able to do that for the remainder of this race, or does it just start to become too dangerous? Ian Ward having an issue as well. The iRacing Designs replay picking this up, and overcooks it a little bit into the horseshoe. We see that from time to time. It's an interesting little entry there, but he'll go to the inner track and get rolling without further incident. And that's the best you can hope for, honestly, with most of these spots where you're going to crash or at least come unstuck here. The problem to be aware of is the fact that you will end up sideways at a part of the track where drivers can't see you until they're just about to T-bone you.
Keep an eye on Reese Wakefield and Jeremy Washington. Go for a little two for special as well too between these two drivers. They came together earlier, remember, with a little bit of contact that sent both of them off the track a little bit and allowed Danny just to cruise on down the road, which Danny is cruising on down the road at the moment with a 3-second gap over Joshua on those pit stops. But we do know that Jeremy Washington, is on a little bit of an alternative strategy, perhaps going to give himself 1 or 2 extra laps after this next pit stop, as somebody's off into the infield there. I think that might have been Simon. We've got a big battle as well too. Dan Micro, Ian Ward, Simon. They're all going for any pitches. Gentlemen, that starts your engines. Don't blow your engines. This is fantastic.
Love to see some tight pack racing going on the Daytona infield. It's not a place I like to be when I'm in the cockpit, but certainly where I'd like to see it happening. The Simon Cup goes very wide up and over the median strip there. Very lucky, to keep the car straight as he drops off the other side of the ripple strip. But hang in there, Ian Ward takes advantage. We go further forward as James Bunker comes under attack from Mick Polly. The Vegemite entry standing out as always. But Polly and Shotter right there in this battle for 7th. There's plenty going on right
for breakfast, lunch and tea.
Honestly, if that's not stuck in your head, were you even growing up in Australia?
Yeah,
Mitch Curry dropping away again.
Oh yeah,
now that's interesting.
Big time. Just to get on the back of this pack there, and just a different strategy that all these drivers like to do there. And says, okay, I don't like to have mirrors full of headlights. I'm happy to put the headlights in their mirrors, as you're going to see a little run up the inside. Side by side, clowns to the left, jokers to the right. Don't be stuck in the middle of these drivers.
InPower gets it done, and then Mitch Curry right on the back of Ryan Palmer. So I was a little worried for Curry there. It looked like he maybe just misjudged how much space to give that group as they came through, and he settled into the back, but he's managed to catch up reasonably quickly thanks to the battle between Powell and Palmer. I don't know quite what he was planning to do when he gave them all that space coming through the banking. Dylan Thomas now side by side with Wiley Blair. Ian Ward right behind them waiting to pick up the scraps if this goes wrong. You see Blair bouncing over the ripple strip, and Thomas does the same on the opposite side. They're going side by side through the first horseshoe. Thomas is going to find himself on the outside. Can he get the power down? Slides the rear end of the GT3 Mustang ever so slightly, but Blair begins to pull away out in front, and Ian Ward finds himself stuck behind Thomas as they make their way through the dogleg towards the second horseshoe. it's an interesting place to try and pull off a side-by-side move there. There's just really not the space for it, and you can't take advantage of much of the slipstream like you can on the banking of this track. Meanwhile, further up though, check out Washington and Wakefield. This is what I'm talking about. Wakefield is absolutely tucked in behind Washington's car right now, probably even actually giving him a bit of a nudge along there. It's a little hard to see from some of these angles, but I suspect that Wakefield is considering just pushing Washington along for his own benefit to try and close the gap a little to Aaron Gilbert in front. You can see just there, 2.5 seconds separating them before they can latch onto that second place pack. And still the gap to Danny P out in front continues to fall down to 3.4 seconds now as Mitch Curry gets the pass done on Dean Powell, but Powell massively late on the brakes, nudges it back. Can Curry get the drive out of the corner? He's not going to have anywhere to go, and he will remain in 13th for the moment as Ryan Palmer starts to laugh his way all the way to the bank out in front. I can't help but think of the laughing clown and Happy Gilmore, right?
Yeah, I just hit my head on the concrete, but I'm perfectly okay. Jim Washington, Reese Wakefield, so close together. I mean, you can think about it. Eight or so rounds. 6 or so rounds after in this championship, they are separated by 27 points. On track, they're separated by 27 thousandths of a second. That is going to show you how tight this championship is between those two gladiators, and it's fantastic to see them on the track there as well. But with Danny P in the lead of this one, he would love to take a whole chunk of change out of these drivers, but way too early to say with 1 hour and 15 minutes to go in that one. And all those other battles are occurring as well too, as you saw earlier in the infield and so forth, taking the various lines. That's also something that they are pushing at, risking it for the biscuit a little bit, considering the fact that those marbles and stuff like that are forming. And whoa, 86 off.
Wiley Blair just gets it a little bit unstuck there coming out of the horseshoe. Didn't look like there was any assistance from Mitch Curry, just overcooked it a little bit, and unfortunately slides
the
off
marbles
the
I was talking about. Yeah, exactly.
They're starting to
build up, and they're venturing into that territory, and that territory is starting to
pretty
pressure
wide
the
of the bus
drivers that are
stop.
doing
Contact. Caplet gets sent by Ian Ward. Can he pull it back up without further incident? Caplet very nearly takes Ward there. Ward backs it out and redresses. That was so close to a major incident.
Yeah. And speaking of a bit of kitty litter kicked up on the exit of the bus stop too, which is a dangerous place to have it, because when you want to hit that lab panel and you get out of that corner, now you've got a little bit of kitty litter kicked up here. So fantastic battles at the moment here. We're looking at the battle for P19.
Dan Mirko and Dylan Thomas continue their way around. We'll go back and we'll take another look at that 3-wide entry into the bus stop as they've come down off the banking and down that back straight. Caplet's managed to make the pass, but then they've ended up, Ian Ward just up the inside. I think Caplet looking to the outside, keeping his eye on Dylan Thomas, and as he turns in, Ian Ward is there, but way too late on the brakes.
I don't think he saw him until the last minute, didn't he? Because he probably didn't realise he was up on the inside. Spotters going car left, car right, car everywhere. And he lifted off and gave that position back, probably with a my bad situation, which is sportsmanship 101 that you're going to find here at the MC Motorsport.
Absolutely. We go back up the front. Josh Benno and Kyle Ridley continue locked in with each other here in the battle for second. Aaron Gilbert, he's managed to close the gap up, but just can't seem to close that last half second to really get into this one. He'll get there under brakes, but he's losing just a bit too much time through the infield, and once you're out of that slipstream, it's impossible to get back onto it. So he really needs to take advantage of the closure he's got here to stick with them through the infield and then be right on their tail as they come out the opposite side and onto the banking once again. Nick Clydesdale's had a big moment. The iRap Designs replay catching this.
There's the marbles.
The marbles have got him.
Takes the cone out, and the cone reappears and says, the triple one machine, who's currently at the moment running back at P26, 3 positions down from it, but he is the solo Corvette that you'd mentioned. It was interesting to see those the high speed of the Corvette and how they pan out. We'll see that a little bit later on. So battles all over there. Dan Micro Simon still the battle from 20th place. You can see in your picture. Hey, we're going to see 3-wide action again, gentlemen.
Looks like Dan Mirko's made the most of that, though. He's taken Applett and Thomas up the inside of turn 1. A beautiful line taken there by the BE Electrical race on Oz McLaren, and puts himself back into 19th, up 6 positions from where he started. So certainly moving through the field as everyone has completed that first pit stop. We are waiting to see what the second pit stop brings. This will be where the strategy plays in, I'm sure. Washington and Wakefield, the 2 championship leaders, remain absolutely deadlocked at this point. Let's see if we do get a little bit of a nudge along here.
Yeah, there is. There's your NASCAR bump drafting all the way, which you're happy to do. Of course, down into out of turn 3 and 4 down the backstretch and to start another lap here, of course. But yeah, don't be going straight, gentlemen. You're going to go into the infield right now, which is exactly what you do. You can see up the road there, Jeremy Washington, a little bit of a racing line. Jeremy Washington happy to explore those marbles that are out there as well too, as Reese Wakefield, as you can see on the camera, follows on. He's got his steering wheel collection in the background. He's got widescreen monitors. You can see to the very, very left of the monitor. You can see that's actually in the in-car. You can see just the mirror, the left mirror. So you can imagine he's got some pretty wide, ultra-wide screens, because he doesn't look over there. He's looking in the center at the moment. So he's got 3 screens, one to the left, I'd imagine, one in the middle, one to the right. Reese Wakefield getting the job done at the moment. And I was talking, Dean Jacobson's in for, and I was going to say, you know, I thought some of these drivers were definitely sparking, and the electrical entry is at the moment of Dean as he's down the pit road there, selling some autographs.
Worth noting the incident between Mirko Applett and oh look, there's a time penalty now for Ian Ward for that incident through a bus stop. I was about to say the racing incident declared for the earlier contact between Caplet, Mirko and Wiley Blair. But Ian Ward copying a 5-second time penalty, which is not surprising. He sent it way too late into the bus stop that time around. Let's keep.
Do you reckon Reese Wakefield knows there's a big hunchman crawling on his wall at the moment in the background?
I suspect he's not listening to us at all, mate. Have a look.
I've been doing that to drivers when they're talking about. But at the moment, there, Joshua's putting massive pressure there on Daddy P as well too. For the no, that's Joshua and Carl. My apologies on that one. That was very, very close there for a second between those 2 drivers, as Carl is just mounting that pressure for the SLM Motorsports versus the FCR Sim Sports entry. As Daddy P still, well, he's not up the road by 4 seconds and change anymore. It's about 2.7 seconds away from this pack that you can see.
Finally see him in the same shot as the chasing pack. And speaking of chasing pack, this was just Benno and Ridley with Gilbert desperately holding on in the background. Gilbert's dropped off a little, but it's actually brought Washington and Wakefield into our battle box here. So we're about to have a bit of a 5-way battle. The question will be, do Washington and Wakefield start to cut through this little pack and look to catch up to Danny P further up the field?
It's the battle box live on the MC Motorsports, presented by the Simple Racing Broadcasts, and there it is. So at the moment, currently, Jeremy Washington and Reese Wakefield, well, they're about essentially 5 seconds down the road from Danny P leading this race.
Yeah, it's not going to take long at all, is it? And Danny P has certainly lifted his foot compared to how hard he was pushing before. We're within 3 seconds to this pack. Josh Benno has been chipping away at it, but I do wonder how much fuel Danny P's been managing to save, if indeed that has been the reason for him just, coming back to the rest of the field. Again, you don't want to go out too hard too early, right? Especially...
He's like, I'm lonely, so lonely, running at the front of the field there.
I mean,
perhaps it can be covering. Remember, Jeremy Washington at the moment is looking a little bit better on that strategy. Remember, pitting back on lap 16 and taking about essentially almost 10 seconds longer in his pit stop than the rest of the drivers that are around him, especially his championship competitors. So maybe Danny P's got this call there from his engineer. They're crunching some numbers in the background there, and they say, okay, well, Danny P, you can save a little bit of fuel. You may be able to cover off the potentially the undercut coming there from Mr. Washington.
Yeah, and that'll be the interesting one to watch, right? If my numbers are on the mark, which they very often aren't, let's be honest, but if we are expecting about an hour out of the tank, let's say a little bit less for the higher fuel usage here, but if we're expecting about an hour out of the tank, then we should be starting to see second pit stops in around about a half hour's time. So we're not too far away from getting a feel for what that might look like. And of course, if these guys can extend it just beyond that 1 hour mark, then they're going to get away with making it a 2-stopper. I don't think anyone will be looking at a 3-stop.
Unless you're going to gamble at the back of the field at the moment, but you've got to be doing...
You'd have to be going
at the
so
moment, they're
much
currently
slower.
doing 45s, right? Yeah, 45s. Some of those drivers around the P20 or something like that doing 48s, 47s. That's not going to be enough. If you're going to do a 3-stopper, you need to be in the 44 club. You need to be doing consecutive 44s over and over and over again, and then you'll be like, hey, all of a sudden you got yourself a shot in the top 10. That's for sure, but that's not easier. It's easier said than done, of course, for us up in the commentary box there. I couldn't do a 44 to save my life. This driver certainly can.
Look, I'm quite happy to say that I can't tell you what sort of pace I'd be able to put around here in a GT3 because I don't think I've actually given it a shot. And I don't really want to embarrass myself up against some of the talent we've got here in the MC Motorsport field of drivers. What I will
Side
know...
action between Aaron and Mick into turn one. It could be three-way action. They have James in the background. Go ahead.
I was just going back to exactly that because Polly has really started to put pressure on Shotter. Yeah, James Bunker's going
to... my friend.
Oh, very, very close to contact there between Polly and Bunker. They're side by side now as they come down to the first of the horseshoes. Bunker backs it out a little. Polly looks for a send up the inside very late on the brakes. I suspect his tyres perhaps starting to just get a little bit overheated at the moment because that was super, super late on the brakes. It almost looked like he was going to lose it into the side of Shotter's AMG.
He wanted his Vegemite sandwich, mate.
And again, look at how late Polly is on the brakes there. I've got to think at the moment he's doing it intentionally, but geez, that is risky with an hour and 5 to go in this Enduro.
But it could be the dress rehearsal, of course, to try to throw the driver off to force them to a mistake later on when it counts, when you want to get those positions. Very, very possible. Driving is racing, my friend.
It certainly is. We go forward to the pack of 5, the battle for second. Now absolutely a 5-way battle. Josh Benno continuing to hold it. Kyle Ridley just tucked in behind him. Aaron Gilbert's coming with them. And then Washington and Wakefield just off the back, happy to have their own little battle going on at the moment. Wakefield again, even go just closing up the gap behind Washington every time, keeping that pressure on. He's not looking to make a pass. He hasn't taken a look at the inside. It's all about turn 1 though. Let's see what Wakefield does as they make their way across the start-finish line and down towards the turn to the infield.
And the thing is, what he's also doing, because it's interesting, because if you see Washington, he always takes that different racing line entrance into turn 1. So he goes a little wider and cuts the apex a little more. Reese Wakefield's been studying that for some time, so that's one thing that he's got. He's got his little notepad out there. He takes his hand off the steering wheel. He jots down some notes, and he goes, all right, I see what Jeremy's doing. I see how defensive he's going to be, because he knows that later on in this race, if push comes to shove and they're in similar situations, he's going to want to overtake him on track, and he's going to say, okay, well, Jeremy Washington, I've been studying the way you play your poker game, and I know when you're bluffing, and I know when you're going to hold them, and I know when you're going to fold them.
Yeah, it's one that we need to keep a very, very close eye on here. Back we go onto the bank section, and the view from Washington's McLaren backwards to Wakefield Acura. Surprise, those yellow headlights continue to fill the rear view mirror.
200. Does he get the 7th gear? 250. Won't get the 7th gear, but 270. Almost 270 might peak out here.
That's the slipstream.
They're 270. Yep, there it is.
The slipstream coming into effect there as you see the debris getting flipped up. They cut these corners right through the bus stop. You know, you wouldn't get to you wouldn't get to 270 without the aero effect from the cars in front.
Yeah, they should be topping at about 280s, 85s. Let's see, because this will be the area where they do it. Actually, probably the exit before the bus stop. What is it? Which is the maximum peaking? Yeah, well, there it is. He's not close enough to get that super slipstream that you would be getting.
Just shy of 280 across the line and down into turn 1. You see Washington going wide that time, so not staying consistent, just keeping Wakefield guessing behind him. It's the way to go.
Making every corner just work without getting to the infield or into the fence is fantastic here in Daytona Roval. That's what you like to see, not the oval but the Roval. Now that gap that Danny P has to Joshua is about 2.7 seconds. Once again, Danny P just all in clean air by himself, but this is where the action is taking place, and that's essentially really from Josh Benno all the way down to the likes of Reese Wakefield. Then Aaron Schotter is about 7 seconds and change down the road there from the Reese Wakefield snake train, well, the Joshua snake.
Yeah, it's starting to space out.
It's a little bit Joshua tree, isn't it, from you too?
It is a little. And this is what you see, right? There's Danny P just making his way past the camera, so we've managed to catch him once again for the first time in a little while. He did actually extend the lead out for a lap or two there, got back up to just over 3 seconds, so perhaps Josh Benno just having a slightly slower exit out of the bus stop on a couple of occasions, but while Ridley, he's not really pushing as hard behind Benno at the moment. I wonder if he's just falling off a little.
Well, Joshua Benno went in early too. He went on lap 13 and he took a 38.4 second pit stop. Now that's not always very accurate that we were going to get that information there stationary. Kyle Ridley, he went on lap 15, so a couple of laps later, he took a 40.33 second pit stop. He might have just a little bit more in the tank. Kyle's certainly one to watch, I'd say, in this championship as well too, because he's been improving and he's not too far down the road there for the rest of the field currently at the moment in the championship in P4, making gains, 84 off the leaders, but what I mentioned earlier there as well too, with only 9 race starts, he's still got that race win up his sleeve there. He's confident, he knows what it feels like to taste the bubble stop on the top step, and of course importantly he's got 4 of those top 5 finishes, and once again running in P3 at the moment, looking good for another podium, if not race win.
Well, a long way to go here. We're just about to tick over the halfway point of tonight's 2-hour race. And the standings at the moment, Danny P out in first, his lead being chipped away at by this group of 5 drivers. Josh Benno in second at this point with Ridley, Gilbert, Washington and Wakefield all hot on his tail. Then a long gap back to 7th with Aaron Schotter leading Mick Polly and James Bunker. And then a variety of gaps throughout the field beyond that. A pretty tight battle going on back here though, between Thomas, Ward and Mirko for 19th, as Ward finds himself right up the back of Dylan Thomas and Mirko right in there as well, the 3 of them coming very, very close through that corner. I've got to wonder if Dylan Thomas is maybe just holding them up ever so slightly for them to be able to close up like that behind him, but
well, he is going to get the slingshot, isn't he? He has to get past him. If he feels like it is Dan, I'll say Dan Micro at the moment, he was electrifying the way he was driving the big electrical race on entry, but he had to lift off a little bit. He set a little bit too deep in that one. He's going to be sitting there with a bird's eye view of the Ian Ward and Dylan Thomas show, as those two are going to be side by side. I would be sitting back there, Dan Micro, and reach into the passenger seat there and grab some popcorn and enjoy that, because these two are going to be racing for a tooth and nail like it's the last lap of this 2-hour endurance.
Side by side across the start-finish line. Schotter and Polly trade places on the way into turn 1. Can Schotter retain her as Polly got the outside run? Polly just fakes himself out there, ends up going very wide, and James Bunker's going to sneak through behind. So Schotter, a little bit of the pressure taken off there. Polly just messing up that line through turn 1. I think he turned in and maybe was expecting Schotter to have turned in a little earlier. There's only a fraction of a second in it, but it was enough to completely throw Mick off his line, and he's had to give up that position to James Bunker.
Oh, sorry about that one as well too. Dan Micro and Ian almost got into each other. They're going to be side by side and at the bus stop as well too. It looks like Ian made a little bit of a mistake. Dan had to react to that one. Charlie is also on the tailpipe of these drivers there. So fantastic there. Hey, he's not joking around.
He's not around at the moment. Across the start-finish line
gentlemen,
here.
Don't try it. Yeah, you know what? Go ahead and try it. This is entertaining.
There's an hour to go. Why not? Ian Ward up the inside. Dan Mirko looks for the over-under, or the under-over perhaps. At the moment though, just going to settle in behind Ward, and Dylan Thomas continues fairly comfortable out in front without the pressure on from the 3 battling it out behind. 2 McLarens, 1 Acura, and the Ford Mustang managing to hold it all together out in front in the battle for 19th.
Number 10 as well. But we'll see how that pans out. Fantastic racing all around here at the moment. You got to do remember that there's still close quarters action happening for the battle for P2. Close quarters action happening for the battle for P19 on your pitches. As you can see, different racing line. A little bit of snap of an oversteer from Dan. He had to try to control that car as you see as the pink machine being awarded in just up the road there. Clearly these drivers are taking different approaches as well too. A little bit on the loud pedal coming out of the corner from Dan Micro. He had to adjust there for a second because I think that little bit of a key litter and all those mothers were kicked up on the exit there, but I'll start to punish them a little bit as Charlie is pouncing on the back there of the number 7. It's McLaren versus McLaren. No team orders here in Daytona.
Absolutely not. As Mirko closes the gap to Ian Ward through the bus stop, can he get on the loud pedal and stick with him? He has, so he'll be right in that slipstream as they come around towards the start-finish line. We're going to end up side by side here again, I suspect. Mirko's got the run that gap coming down.
That's what it says in the back wing as well too on Ian Ward. It says pink.
Just in case we're unclear, so Ian Ward goes into the pits.
Oh, and that's probably what he seems like. I've had enough of this one. I'm going to get a pit stop done. The last pit stop perhaps, and then leave these two. Dylan, the Double D show into turn 1 here at the Daytona. And at the moment, Dylan Thomas from the MC Motorsports entry has the position.
Bunker going at it again.
Yeah, Mike right here.
We come through the bus stop. Polly is all over the back of Bunker. Bunker just starting to fall away a little bit from Aaron Schotter as Schotter's Mercedes just continues the amazing run out of the bus stop, and Bunker just hasn't managed to close that gap up. He really does need to, or else he's going to find himself stuck in this eternal battle with Mick Polly, and he needs to keep an eye in the background for Brett O'Keefe and Ryan Palmer not too far behind as well. Further up through the field though, we come back to our battle for second, and Aaron Gilbert right in the middle of the two pairings really at this point. You've got Benno Ridley out in front, Washington and Wakefield right behind them. Danny P, the gap slowly but surely coming down out in front as these 5 look to close in on him, and he's about to hit some lap traffic as well. Mitch Curry in for his second stop, so right on 1 hour and 5. That's an early one, and he's going to be able to take on a lot of fuel, but that could pay off. You never know.
You want to, but that's interesting about having some spacing, because clean air is good, but at the same time you're not going to get a slipstream. You can't do any fuel saving and stuff like that as well. So we'll see how that pans out there. All hail to the king for the Team Jig shifters their entry of Henry. So the Ford's in there, and the Salt Rambo is in the pit road as well too. So we'll see how it pans out for those drivers there. Micro's gone in as well. So second round of pit stops as predicted there by the man that's the walking Wikipedia of racing knowledge, Mr. Jared. And see how it pans out for the rest of these drivers.
I'll be honest, it's a little earlier than I was expecting. But I would have thought we'd see another 10 or 15 minutes as Wakefield gets the run out of the bus stop right behind Washington. He's going to give him a bit of a nudge along here. He wants to close that gap to Gilbert. He knows that he needs to take full advantage of this opportunity. And it's one of those rare occasions that you only see on these roval-style courses where competitors really do have to work together to be able to catch the drivers in front.
And you've got to know each other, don't you? Because it's got to, when you're that close, yeah, you've got to understand. And once again, similar situation. Jeremy Washington taking a little bit of a different racing entry into turn 1. But that's the thing, Rich Wakefield has studied that for a good chunk of half an hour to 40 minutes. He knows exactly how it's going to work. So he goes, all right, I'm confident enough that I can be as close as I can on the back of the number 1 McLaren and know that where his braking points are, so that I can also brake a little bit later myself there and not risk taking each other out.
I've just seen Mitch Curry do this again. You see him go to the high line, let a driver through. Curry is absolutely playing the fuel game here. He's not even trying to stick to the back of Mortimer.
It's like the shark in Jaws, isn't it? Dun, 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 dun. He likes to be the one chasing him down there and says, I'm hungry, I need a snack.
We'll go on board with Curry for a moment, and let's just see. Like he's absolutely short shifting the car. He's looking for a bit of that side draft off that top wall.
That shows you the banking and that camera angle, isn't it?
Oh, it's
are you
huge.
tilting your head to the left? Because I certainly am here at Daytona.
It does show you just how incredibly angled the top edge of those banked walls are. But Curry's not even trying to stick with Mortimer at the moment. He's absolutely running his own race. He's not pushing the top speeds. He is short shifting the GT3 Mustang just
He's
a
going
little.
the distance.
He's going for
fuel
speed savings, not speed.
Yeah. Well, and once again, just to let everybody out there that's new to iRacing, if you're just tuning in there, supporting your family members and siblings and stuff like that, that banking elevation, when we do show the camera, and of course the drivers don't drive like that, but it shows you that there's a push, there's a, you know what it's like when you're on a roller coaster and stuff like that, or anything that has G-forces and pushes you off into odd directions. That's what the car's going to be doing. It's going to try to slide up into the fence there, and you're on that banking elevation, so you're going to be adjusting that steering wheel. You're not going to be dead center. You're going to be wheel cranking it to the left. The car's trying to push you to the right, and that's what they're fighting there, and that's what that gyro cam really demonstrates, that banking thing. And so when you're in that cockpit and you're seeing it basically stationary, the car's doing exactly what the gyro cam is demonstrating.
Wake's got to be really careful here. Because he might find himself off the back of Washington. Washington's gotten close enough to Aaron Gilbert now that he's going to have full advantage as they come onto the banking here of the slipstream. If Wakefield can't latch onto the back, he's going to get lost from this group of 4. Keep your eye on the gap back to Wakefield. Can he start to close it down? And there you can see already it's starting to open up just a few thousandths, but he's just a little too far back from Washington at the moment. Washington probably could be a little further up the road.
He may be. It's going to be crucial out of the exit of the bus stop here, because you got to remember Jeremy Washington might be a little bit more, I'd say, chicken-footed is the term there, which is a little bit. Yeah, well, lifting as well too. He's got Aaron at the road there. He hasn't been following Aaron for a great deal of time that he's used to on the championship here. Jeremy's been used to following Reese and following Daddy P and stuff like that. So. Reese is confident he knows what Jeremy Washington's going to do up the road, but does Jeremy Washington confident to know what Aaron Gilbert's going to do up the road? That's the thing, isn't it? So they've just got to kind of like pan out that situation. Jeremy Washington knows at this point he can't be doing anything too outrageous. He knows that. I think he's going to be confident to know Reese Wakefield's not going to do anything crazy behind him, and they're going to have to be in there. And once again, there it is. Reese Wakefield is going to be tucked up against him and get back in that slipstream as they're going on the infield.
And this is where Wakefield makes up his time. Just having that bit of extra space in front of him, he doesn't have to worry too much about backing it off to match the pace. And I think it's actually Aaron Gilbert keeping Wakefield in the game right now, because if Gilbert wasn't there, I suspect Washington would be going a bit deeper under brakes and starting to close the gap in front to Benno and Ridley. So Gilbert really the glue holding this group together at the moment. Let's go and check in though out in front with Danny P, because he has been out here on his own for pretty well the better part of, if I'm not mistaken, something like 40 minutes post pit stops. And so he has been having to really fight that mental battle of staying on pace with no other cars around to really judge or base his timings off. That can be a really, really hard position to be, and you can see the group behind has been whittling away his lead, down from 4 seconds to just shy of 3 now. But they're really struggling to close this last 2.8 seconds that he's holding on to.
He has the amount of pressure around him, so he can be focusing on his race strategy a little bit more. As you can see there, I've got to say, pull up the camera. We're right on time, man. That's what you get here for the Simple Racing broadcast. Look at that camera angle at the moment. It feels like I'm in the dash at the moment. It feels like I'm in the tachometer, looking back at him and his concentration on his eyes on both cameras, of course, as well too in the virtual world and the real world. But he can be more focusing on his strategy. Aaron Gilbert goes into pit road as well too. We're seeing that second round of pit stops right on cue, and Danny P, he's just sitting there going, all right, well, what can I do here? How can I manage it? Got to keep yourself focused mentally as well, too, because when you are not having cars around you, you're also on your race. And on top of it, too, he's the one that's exploring this track as it's evolving lap by lap out the front of everybody else. So he knows I've got nobody else to judge how the race is, developing and evolving around me. He doesn't know, because he's the one that's exploring it first.
Absolutely, and all we can really base it on is the occasional bit of lapped or soon to be lapped traffic. You see out in front, if I'm not mistaken, that was Ian Ward. You can see just off in the distance. Take a look at the rear view camera though. You can just see the lights from the chasing pack starting to show up in Danny P's rear view camera. They're a long way back still, but he'll be very aware of them just floating around back there as he makes his way through the bus stop. Still high speed, 160k an hour, 100 mile an hour in the old terminology. or American, depending on how you look at it. And
hey, you call it America's. Reese Wakefield's using his windscreen wipers as well too on the back there of Jeremy Washington, but we are seeing absolutely Danny P's concentration levels through the roof. He's going to be sitting there talking to his engineer soon, calculating their strategy when they're going to hit down the pit road. Speaking of pit road, I have to say Jeremy Washington's the one. There it is. Joshua goes into pit road at the moment there from that P2 position. We'll see how it pans out, but you're wondering at the moment, isn't it, if Reese Wakefield's going, oh, well, I did hear on the radio call, I did get the memo. I did get the old Western Union telegram to say that Jeremy Washington pitted 2 laps later than I did.
Yeah, Reese Wakefield just setting the fastest lap, 1:44.63 on that one. So absolutely on the back of Jeremy Washington's car for that run around the banking, I'm sure, to start to close in just those extra couple of tenths, take the fastest lap. But Washington and Wakefield absolutely flying on that last lap. By comparison, Ridley 1:45.58, so he was a bit slower. Now, whether he got held up a little by cars in front, Josh Benno pulling into the pits, perhaps. But these three locked into it right now. The gap now to Danny P, 3.5 seconds. So even just the difference it makes by having Benno drop off the front there, you know, he wasn't that far out in front of Ridley, but with Benno dropping off, the pace that they're going at is enough that 5 car lengths is enough to make the gap an extra half second. Phenomenal speed around here.
They're on vapors right now, because now they're in the 44 club again. We haven't seen the 44 club until the first round of pit stops before that, when they burnt off that half a tank fuel load that they started the race on. So now they've got the absolute maximum speed out of these cars until the very end of the race, in this final pit stop strategy part of the race coming up right now. Danny P was at a 45 on that last lap. Now he's actually got it down to the 44s. Kyle Ridley was the one that did the 45 actually, and Jeremy Washington. So we'll see it pans out right now. Aaron goes in, James is in pit road as well too. But these drivers I expect to go to pit road. More importantly, we're going to be curious to see whether Jeremy Washington, that little gamble of slapping a little bit more moonshine into that car, is going to pay off to give him a couple more laps of those 44 lap times, which would be important to jump a couple of places.
And Danny P managing a 44.9 on the last, while the 3 here, a 45.27 for Ridley, a 45.29 for Washington, and 45.52. So Ridley really starting to hold up Washington and Wakefield here. The other thing for these guys to keep a really close eye on, we're starting to see these second pit stops happening, and drivers taking around about 35 seconds to load up with fuel to the end of this race. Now, the more that these guys can stretch out the fuel tank and what's left in it, the better it'll be for their overall pit stop time. However, there's something else that comes into play here, Biggles. A tyre change in a GT3 takes somewhere around 25 seconds. So if you're taking more than about 25 seconds worth of fuel, then effectively you can get tyres for free. However, if they stretch these tanks too far and they get down to, say, needing 19-20 seconds worth of fuel to get to the end, they've got to decide whether it's worth hanging on for the fresh tyres, or whether they try to stretch these through to the end. Now, the tyres should have the life in them, but at this point they're probably getting... There we go. Wakefield goes in as well. Yep. So Ridley and Washington keep on going. We'll see just how many extra laps Washington manages to put in here.
Yeah, I'm guessing he wants to stretch 2. Remember, he stretched essentially 2 before. You're right about that. I didn't really calculate that push comes to shove situation, which is most likely going to come more into Jeremy Washington's plate, isn't it? It absolutely will. Do I take tyres? Because he's the one that can afford to take a little bit less extra fuel, knowing now this is his last pit stop, and he's got basically 40 minutes if he comes around that 40-minute to go marker.
Now my tip, and we can't see it from our telemetry unfortunately, but my tip is that Washington will actually just take the right-hand side tyres, because those of course have been copying an absolute belting going around the left-hand, the left turn banking, and so you know that will cut the tyre change time in half. They only do 1 tyre at a time on the GT3s. So
you need those pit crews from the Cars movie.
Yeah, you do, don't you? The little Italian guys.
Ferrari! Yeah.
But I reckon that's a real opportunity for Washington to still get a couple of fresh tyres on there.
He's on the back there of Kyle as well too, so he doesn't want to be held up right now. This is crucial because Kyle was doing 45s, Jeremy was 44s, because he needs to cover off this undercut from these other drivers. And he's going to get a nice slip shift from Kyle, but I think at this moment, push comes to shove. If he feels like Kyle's going to hold him up here, he's going to go for it.
Yeah, the other thing to consider is how much fuel is he saving behind Ridley for every lap. Like, sure, he's losing what, let's say a half second off the very best times that we're seeing per lap.
But he needs to put these qualifying laps in right now because that's the only way he's going to. This is his plan. This is his strategy. By staying out a little bit longer, he needs basically Kyle to go to the pit, but he can't be afford. If he's got to be planning this at the moment today, he's like, okay, Kyle, you've just got to go fast, mate, because I want to go even quicker. He's trying to cover off, remember, Danny P and Reese Wakefield here. This is what Jeremy Washington's thinking about. Mick probably goes in, but he doesn't want to be held up too much by Kyle. If he feels like he's held up by Kyle, he might go for it.
Danny P right now, 51.1 seconds back from Washington. Danny P's pit time are 1 minute 12. So, yeah, Washington's gonna want to hold on for a bunch of extra laps, and he needs to do it without losing any more time. Danny P's starting to actually drop back just a couple more tenths. So whether he's being held up behind some other traffic there or something similar is hard to say. But something
Jeremy
to
Washington
keep
needs 44s at best. We'll see soon because they're coming down the back stretch, so we still have to wait quite a bit, but there'll still be maximum speed. He'll get a nice tow from Kyle. Kyle might get a little bit of a tow from a back marker as well, too, up the road. Hasn't caught him quite yet. They might catch him in the bus stop.
Long way to make up. Ward's still maintaining a pretty good pace of 1:46.09, his best on the last lap, actually. So Ward is pushing hard. And here we go, Washington, again, tucked in behind. What we're waiting to see here, folks, is whether Jeremy Washington's about to duck into the pits, or is he just waiting for Kyle Ridley?
I think Kyle's going to be coming in the pits probably before Washington, because Kyle blocks back on lap 15. Jeremy on lap 16. If anybody, Kyle. Yep,
Ridley's going in.
Washington's clear. Let's see Washington's time. Unfortunately, we won't get Kyle's time because he's gone in, but Washington needs a 44 at least here. It might even be one of the quickest laps of the race. It did come up there as a 45.21 in the tow, so that's interesting.
To do without anyone in front of him now, though. The gap to Danny P just hovering around 51.4, so every single lap that Washington can put in here is less fuel that he needs to fill up with to make it to the end of this race. We're coming down, we're just inside 40 minutes to the end, and so the time certainly ticking away. He's absolutely not going to need a full tank to get to the end. We know that he came into the pits, 1-2 laps later in Danny P and Reese Wakefield?
Yes.
Question is, has he managed to save any fuel on the way around?
Ridley's gone in, Patrick's gone in. That will clear up Danny P to scoot on by them and Reese Wakefield. And this will be interesting as well too. Washington can catch the back of that the back marker there. That could actually give him a little bit of toast. But he's got 1 or 2 laps. Shouldn't hinder him whatsoever. And putting in perhaps
this will be interesting because there's Ridley coming out now. He's right there with Danny P. Wakefield's further back. Wakefield's almost 4 seconds back from these two. So that gives us a bit of an idea of just what might happen for Jeremy Washington, because Ridley went in just ahead of Washington and Ridley's come out just behind Danny P. Now Danny P's got his pace on him.
Kyle Ridley's had a fantastic strategy getting the jump on those two, splitting them up really at the moment there with Danny P, and close to Danny P more than anything. Danny P had that 3 second or 2 second or so gap actually before Kyle.
He did.
Now Kyle's on his top.
And this is where the fuel starts to come into it, right? We saw Danny P go in, he's fueled to the end, has been 35 seconds in the pit box. Kyle Ridley, those extra 2 laps before he came into the pits, has meant he's only needed 32.5. So we can guesstimate, a very technical term of course, that each lap that Washington can put in is around about 1.5 seconds, maybe just under 1.5 seconds less time than he was to spend putting fuel in. So it's all gonna start to add up here. Washington is the one to watch.
6 gap at the moment to Danny P. And now
expanding.
Mayfield held up a little bit, but he could get a a nice toe here at the moment, and that driver just completely pushes out of the way there. Gets out of the way of Jeremy Washington to allow Jeremy Washington to get on out of the bus stop. A little bit of a mistake, you have to say, from Washington out of the bus stop, but he's on the loud pedal, and he knows this could be the make or break moment to win this race. And Jeremy Washington wins this race, he's going to be the biggest smile on him, knowing that he's going to have the biggest point lead going into the finale.
And if Washington takes this one, if Wakefield finishes back in fourth, this being a double points round, it's going to put Washington in a very close to unbeatable position, you'd have to think.
Yeah.
Comes through the bus stop, Washington sends it top speed through there, 51.6 back to Danny P. Still hovering around that. He really wants to see that extend, but at the same time, every extra lap that he puts in here is about a second, maybe a touch more or less, that he needs to spend in pits when he comes through.
So we got 2 laps, didn't he, so far, extra on the likes of Danny P and Reece Wakefield, and his biggest competitors, and Cole, of course. We're going to take Cole out of the picture as well, too, because he's there. So that's 3, pushing for... pushing for almost to 3 laps now. So can he go 4?
This is the thing, right? He's at the moment very, very light as well because he is low on fuel compared to Danny P. He's going to be able to maintain that gap relatively easily as long as his tyres hold up. You can see the gap dropping ever so slightly through that corner, but straight back up again at 51.65 and extending towards 51.7.
Yeah, what's the target, isn't it? Yeah, because that's what he's going to be going through. That's what he's going to be asking his engineer at the moment. What is the delta target that I need to stick to be able to pit and come back out ahead of Danny P? That's what his target is. At the moment, his focus. He might be telling his engineer to say, shut up, I know what I'm doing. I'm perfectly fine. This is the position that I'm in. I know this is the battle that I have. I know that this is the pit stop window that I have, more importantly. And of course, each lap that he burns off, there's also less fuel he needs to take.
And the gap continues to extend. We've just cleared 52 seconds, so Washington absolutely still has pace in that car. It's hovering around that 51.9 now. Danny P, he's going to want to get a move on here. The real question is going to be tyres for Washington. That's the question that I can't quite find an answer to.
Will he take 2?
Well, I'd have to assume that he took tyres at the first stop, because it's a freebie, right? You're filling the full tank. The tyres are free. You'd absolutely take them. Now, he made that stop. Here he comes. He's in. Washington's in.
All right. What about the most important pit stops of your career at the moment in the championship? Can't make any mistakes for JW. He needs to nail this one perfectly, because every second could hand this race over to Danny P.
Let's keep a very, very close eye on the bottom of the screen here. Washington into his pit box now.
He nailed it. He got it.
Let's see what he's looking for here. He's looking for a fairly quick stop. Danny P still 2Ks down the road, but closing quickly, a very, very high speed part of the track here. Washington, 19 seconds, 20 seconds in the pit box.
Yeah, he's probably even stopped out of his cockpit for a last stretch at the moment too, because this is it. He knows it's going to be game on.
He knows 27 seconds. He's cut 5 seconds off Kyle Ridley's time there. This should be enough. This should be actually enough.
Yeah, he's exiting at the moment. He's in the infield already as Danny P's coming in turn 1.
Washington gets out and will still hold around about a 5-second lead by the time it settles over Danny P. 27 seconds. I wonder if that's been just enough time to get a new set of tyres on as well, or if he's just played it safe and kept the old ones on. You'd have to think, given he made his first stop about 25 minutes into this race, it's not a big ask to double stint tyres in these, so I would think he's probably left them on, knowing that they'll be a little worse for wear, but not worth the risk of dropping that lead. And right now, Washington's strategy paying off beautifully as he holds a 4.8 second lead over Danny P with just over half an hour left to go in this race. Kyle Ridley, though, right there in this race as well with Danny P sitting in P3, a comfortable 4-second lead to Reece Wakefield. This is going to be interesting because Danny P and Ridley, of course, battling for P3 in the championship.
Yeah, exactly. Right on, right on cue there. But between both of us, because Kyle could jump Danny P in the championship with the double points for sure if he gets past Danny P in this one. But mastermind strategy from JW, Jeremy Washington. And that's the reason why he's a man that's finished 10 times out of the 11 races in the top 5. He's played that perfectly. He's laid the cards down. I'm taking the Las Vegas, Jeremy Washington, because you know how to gamble, and you know how to gamble and win.
What's really impressive is he's now starting to extend that lead even further. I find that absolutely phenomenal. You know, he's come out of the pits and he's extended that straight back up to almost 5 seconds. Kyle Ridley, meanwhile, closing in on the back of Danny P, and that'll be putting pressure on Danny as well. You know, he's going to know that McLaren is right there hunting him down. So instead of full focus on the road ahead, he's going to have to keep an eye on the mirrors a little as well.
Well, Jeremy Washington's watching the highlights there of the Indy 500 and the Coca-Cola 500, and Monaco, that'll be anyway. One lap you'll get the highlights of the Monaco GP. So yeah, he doesn't have any pressure from behind. And overall, I'm getting reports down there from Ted Kravis that it was only a 27.35 second stationary pit stop from JW.
Very, very quick. Reese Wakefield a little bit further back. You can see the lights off in the distance of Ridley and Danny P. It's a big, big ask for him to catch them from here. As he comes up onto the banking, pushing as hard as he goes. You can see him chatting away there to his teammate, I'm sure.
You got two lights off there, Reese Wakefield. Get in there and put some purple lights on in your room there, mate, and get with the with the theme of it.
Hey?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, then on the two. Then again, it'd probably make you a little bit more tired, wouldn't it? But he is 8:40 in Australian Eastern Standard Time at the moment. Are you racing in?
Could well be. Hey, just a quiet little shout out, and I don't know if he's watching the broadcast, but I've just noticed a spectator dropping into the session by the name of Lucas Sott. If anyone's familiar with Mr. Sott from his Twitch streaming, did a lot of iRacing streams. Big hello to you, Lucas. It's been far too long since we caught up, my friend. Do give us a shout. If you are in the chat, we'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, I hope you're enjoying just poking your head in and taking a look at the very best that MC Motorsport has to offer here with the Daytona 2-hour Enduro.
Lucas who, sorry?
Lucas Sott. Look, just by chance, a name that I recognise because he and I did spend a bit of time playing a few different games together and doing a few races together back in the Twitch days, back in the COVID days. When everyone was
still
streaming.
Twitch is still there.
Yeah. I mean, Twitch is still there for sure. It's still around, but the COVID days where
the COVID days, when we had nothing better to do because we were all stuck at home.
Exactly.
Yeah, I remember that. That's when I got into commentating as well too. So, COVID, of course, was nothing nice that everybody had, but at the same time, it brought a lot of communities together. And we're still continuing on that one from now on, as Jeremy Washington's continuing a 5-second gap at the moment over Danny P there, Kyle. And that's more importantly for Reese Wakefield, isn't it? Because he's currently running in P4, 3 positions down from his race start. And he's getting hearing at the moment that Jeremy Washington's up the road there, and that's to him double points round, thinking, is this my championship done and dusted?
That gap out to just over 5.5 seconds now. Is Danny P holding something in reserve this last half hour, or is Washington just quick tonight? That's the question. I don't think I've got an answer for it at the moment, Biggles.
You don't have an answer?
I know, it's unusual. It's unusual, but I am...
I sent you all these notes up in the commentary box, my friend. You filled out about 50 pages of notes already there, so I'm sure that you've crunched some numbers there. Perhaps you're sandbagging.
Mate, I am honestly, I am struggling to decide whether this is how it's going to finish, or if Jeremy Washington rather has gone a little too hard too soon and is going to just really overstress those tyres. Half an hour to go. There's still a lot of racing still ahead of us here at Daytona, and Danny P surely has something more to give, but even as I say that, we're up to 5.7 now. The gap just keeps increasing. Jeremy Washington That McLaren absolutely earning its keep tonight.
This is the one for the ages. This could be the strategy of strategies. This would be the tape that perhaps drivers will study when you run an enduro race here at Daytona. If Jeremy Washington's mastermind strategy pays off, then that's exactly what you're going to be looking at doing later on, isn't it? The under or the overcut in this situation that from Jeremy Washington is going to be paying off if he can continue to maintain the lead of this race with 27 minutes to go by going an extra couple of laps later in the second stint.
And you're spot on, that's all it was, right? It was 2 laps later in the first stint compared to Danny P and Reese Wakefield, and 3
cars.
Yeah, and 3 more laps on the second stop. And pitting on lap 48, where Danny P's coming on 43, as has Reese Wakefield. And that has been more than enough to open up a sizable gap. Kyle Ridley continues to close the gap now to Daniel Poulton in front. The Antic Motorsports entry under all sorts of pressure from Ridley's McLaren, the SLM Motorsport entry. Absolutely on track for a nice little chunk of points for himself as well. We take a look forward from that McLaren. You can see the amount of tyre debris starting to build up on the front end of these cars. After just over an hour and a half of racing, there's plenty.
Kyle will go for this. Kyle will, because if he gets Danny P, he gets Danny P in the championship as well with the double points. So I'd imagine the Pink Machine's going to absolutely go for this one. Henry King's gone into the pit stop as well too for P14.
There's going to be a third stop there, so that's not going to.
Yeah, the 3 stoppers is not going to help him at the moment. There's Patrick, James, Dan, Simon, Gilbert, Charlie as well.
Gilbert may actually be out of his car at the moment. So he has jumped out of the car by the look of things. Although that may be just a minor issue with potentially with our telemetry, but it does look as though he has disappeared from the track, which is really odd. But we'll keep an eye on that one. Yeah, Ridley, look, this is the play for Ridley right now, is to just stay on the back of Danny P. He wants to close this gap up a little further though. He really needs to be right on his tail coming out of the bus stop every single lap from here on. 2 reasons. One, he needs to keep the pressure on Danny P, but he needs to be in the habit of staying in that slipstream, because the only way that he's going to get that pass done if it comes down to a last lap sprint to the line. He's going to need to be right on the tail out of the bus stop. He's going to have to use a little bit of V8 Supercars knowledge to just push a little bit of air up onto that rear spoiler as he starts to make the pass on Danny P to slow Danny down, and then it's going to be just a sprint to the line to see who can get the nose across first.
Another situation with that as well too is that you don't want to be throwing all your cards down the table immediately, because Danny P is also thinking about the situation. He knows that he's had a good dose there of Kyle Ridley for a chunk of change, and he's also thinking himself, how do I defend against this attack that's looming, no doubt. And if Kyle throws a couple of cards down there on the table there and says, okay, let's see if he can outplay me on that, Danny P's going to know that if he does it too soon, too often, and go, all right, well, this is where I think you're going to be doing it, and I know how to defend against that. So Kyle's got to save a little bit of a surprise up his sleeve here, when of course, in about 23 minutes from now, he's going to perhaps make that lunge there. Because it will be important. Kyle will do it, I'd imagine, because this is essentially, remember, for Kyle, a P3 in the championship.
Absolutely is. There we go. That's what we want to see from Ridley. Nice and tight in behind Danny P's Acura as they make their way around. Look at the gap closing here.
Don't throw your cards too soon, my friend. But then again, he could go, hey, all right, I'm going to perhaps get ahead of you and see how your defending skills are now, Kyle, of course, because Danny P is going to hold the inside line, but Kyle's going to have to work for it on the outside. Now, Kyle's taken the JW cornering turn 1. That's what JW does. He goes out wide, cuts into the apex, and comes back. So that's very interesting to see how it does at the moment there. Back marker might come into play here.
Yeah, Dylan Thomas just ahead of them in the Fisher Motorsports Mustang by the look of it. And we'll see if Danny P tries to use him as a bit of a roadblock. But yeah,
it's also a dress rehearsal too, because you don't know if a back marker is going to come and play from 22 minutes from now too. That's another thing, isn't it? Because that does definitely throw us better in the mix.
Our clean racing may have just come to an end. We've had laps and laps, but the iRapid designs a replay picking up Dan Mirko just getting up on the ripple strip and sideways there on the entry to the banking. And thankfully, out of Simon Caplet's way just enough.
Oh, yeah.
As Caplet enters the bank section of the track. We've had really tidy racing until that point.
Well, it might have been a short circuit, but thankfully he's got the big electrical to make sure that your electrical needs don't short circuit like that.
Oh, well done. Well done. I like that.
Hey, fantastic be electrical, my friend. I'm running on batteries at the moment with my solar setup, so give them a call. I'm sure they can sort that out for you as well.
The lights flashing there from Danny P, just letting Dylan Thomas know that they are coming through. And Thomas obliges, gets out of the way, but immediately jumps over and looks to take advantage of the aerodynamics behind these two cars. Ridley
is going to stay. He's going to stay
absolutely
there. He's going to stay there.
Puts the pressure on, just gives an ever so slight transfer of paint, I'm sure, between his front bar and Daniel Poulton's rear bar.
Can you show us Danny P's camera? I want to see his focus at the moment, and we can probably look over his wheel ring at the Ridley challenge from behind. There it is, because I want to see the focus there, because you've got to remember he's been doing this for a good hour and 40 minutes, and they're sitting in the sweaty cockpit there, focusing. We can all chin wagging about it up here at the booth, right, in comfort, but these drivers are the ones that are sweating it out.
They absolutely are. And Danny P is under all sorts of pressure. The gap now towards Jeremy Washington just over 6 seconds. So you'd have to think at this stage, barring some kind of incident or, gosh forbid it, a safety car with 20 minutes to go, Jeremy Washington's got to be feeling reasonably confident. Danny P manages to extend that lead from Ridley as they make their way into the banking, but here comes Ridley now. The gap starts to fall as the speeds increase, 250k an hour, and Ridley in the slipstream closes it back up 3.5 tenths down towards 3 tenths as they brake on the way into the bus stop. Poulton, a fantastic
Danny P's got to be thinking about P2 at this point, isn't it? He's going to I don't know what he can do about Washington. He can't do probably a lot about Washington, but he's going to be focusing on keeping that P2 for Kyle, because remember, that will be the P3 in the championship that they're currently fighting for, and Danny P's the one that holds all those cards. The man started in P2 from the 970 entry, still in P2.
And have a look at just how quickly Ridley closes that gap behind him once they start to get into the slipstream out of the bus stop. Ridley is just practicing at the moment. 20 minutes left to go here. Round 7 of the Domains2U GT3 Championship presented by MC Motorsport. And we have an absolute battle on our hands here, folks, for the remaining 2 steps on the podium. Washington out in front by almost 6.2. He's in a really comfortable spot. It's been a very clean night of racing. So we're not expecting anything to play too much havoc with his lead. But Danny P and Kyle Ridley going at it, and I've got to think that Ridley is setting something up here. We've seen lap after lap.
Domains2U, you can get yourself like iBTUDannyP.com.au if you really want. Just talk to them there. But it's also good to have, think about how Domains2U, people go, I need a domain name. It's great to have whatever domain name you can get, of course, as your email address. You can have Jared at I told you Biggles that they were going to lapbox on this lap.com.au, anything you want, of course. And some of that helps if you're an eBay trader and things like that as well too. If you have a domain name, you have a page there, it looks professional when you're selling stuff. And then you can even have a little script there that shows you all your eBay items that you're going to sell there from your domain name. So I say, honestly, I have domain names myself, but if you have a domain name, get one. Yeah, just talk to them. It's easy. It takes no time whatsoever, mate. Throw a little bit of coin over there, bang, it's yours, and then we can take it away from you.
Gotta love it. And they're amazing supporters, of course, of the MC Motorsport GT3 series. 1 round to go here, and then a bit of a break between seasons before we're back into the V8 supercars. Those Gen 3 supercars have been locked away in the garages for a little while as we go through the GT3 season, but they're getting ready to come back out on track, so make sure you don't miss any of that action and we will bring you the dates for the start of the next season as we wrap up this season next week in our coverage. Right now, though, 18 minutes or thereabouts to go left in this 2-hour enduro of Daytona's road course. Round 7, we will see at the end of this just what it might do to the championship standings, which of course drop rounds are out of the picture for this round. All the points will count, and so we should be getting a very, very clear picture of what the championship standings are going to look like at the end of round 8 and just how close the battle will be in the final round. G'day Lucas, welcome on in, hope you're doing well. Southern Cross Racing absolutely doing very well tonight. Mick Polly has been just so consistent all night, sitting in P10, and of course a bit of a rough night for Nick Clydesdale. A couple of early issues setting him back through the pack a little, but he's maintained his position, even picked up one along the way, so sitting in 22nd right now with just over 15 minutes to go. The battle though right now that we are keeping absolutely glued to is this one here for position 2, and realistically you've got to think, Biggles, this is the battle for P3 in the championship at this point as well. Danny P and Kyle Ridley, if Ridley can get in front as they come across the line for the final time, I reckon you're probably on the money. He's going to just steal the third position away in the championship, and it will all come down to the final week of racing.
Joshua Benno would be like going to the late great Richie Benno, going on all the twos, the 2 for 22, twos, the battle we're at the moment there, and going back to the Southern Cross Racing entry of Mick. He's battling essentially for the 9s, because the Southern Cross Racing entry is right behind Brett O'Keefe there, and that's inside at a good battle. So 2 of the major battles that are occurring here at the moment, if I do a Richie Benno, are essentially for P2 and are currently for P9 on your pictures. Thank you for tuning in. Like and subscribe. It's not so simple, but it certainly is pleasurable at the Simple Racing broadcast, presenting the MC Motorsports, powered by MCSA.
You see Mick Polly going very wide there around turn 1. Gets it a little loose, manages to recover, just barely holds onto it. His teammate Nick Clydesdale just behind him, the other Southern Cross Racing entry, probably breathing a sigh of relief. The last thing he would have wanted to do there is to plough into that Porsche. The Corvette, the only Corvette in the field, being driven by Nick Clydesdale. That would have been a less than ideal circumstance. Just keeping a close eye on our telemetry, I've noticed that Pete Manette has jumped into the safety car. Now, I don't think we've had any issues at the moment.
He's just got to get a gasoline, mate, because he's been sitting there the whole time idling.
He's just been idling the whole time. Just needs to
pit road.
Put some revs into it for a little while.
He needs to do a lap, come back around there and put it up with some Sunco gasoline there here in the Americas. But Kyle and Danny P now just ahead of Kyle. This is going to switch a route. Remember, once again, we've been talking about this one. This is essentially the big battle for P3 in the championship standings.
Ridley is 100% just getting his eye in at this point. Now, Danny P's got to be thinking about this. He can see what Ridley's doing every single lap. I'm going to call this now. We're going to get to the final lap, and you will see on the exit of the bus stop, if they remain in this sort of positioning, the exit of the bus stop, what you're going to see is you're going to see Danny P actually go high around the banking to force Ridley to take a bit more of a dangerous line. He's going to really hug that top wall, and he's going to force Ridley to think about whether that's going to be safe enough to attempt to pass.
That'll also be go past the lap car at the moment, a little bit further up the road too. That's something that Danny P is going to be thinking about.
Yeah, well, that's Charlie Milliken.
Yeah, Charlie. Yeah, Charles has been on the pit road a couple of times.
10. Depending which panel you look at, it's
yeah, exactly. It's got numbers all over the place. He's playing tricks on the rest of the drivers, but I tell you what, Danny P's flashing his lights at the moment and says, look, I'm in a championship battle here at the moment, and there it is. Charles just moved over out of the way there, because that'll allow actually a little bit of a gap there, because now Kyle has to navigate past him.
Let's see what Ridley does here, because this is an opportunity for Danny P to really open that up. Ridley's going to have a fantastic run. As Milliken goes high, that's going to allow Ridley to carry that extra bit of speed through. He's got some work to do now to catch up, though, because he's down to 6/10. He's going to have to pull back in on Danny P. But it's happening very, very quickly once again. That extra speed from just being tucked in behind Milliken. And Ridley continues his fine form late on the brakes in turn 1. And just like that, straight back on the back of Danny P. I think Danny was probably a little bit optimistic that maybe that would have held him up more, but Ridley, taking no prisoners, moves straight on through, and our battle continues.
And Lucas, you might be interested to know that Mick Polly is really putting pressure on Brett O'Keefe there for the battle for P9 as well too, as we're going to enter into turn 1. He'll get right on the tailpipe at the moment, about 3/10 off the back there of old Brett. So he's going to do his absolute best to size him up there a little bit later, study the number 42 McLaren and see what he can do later on and get himself into the 9th spot there for the Southern Cross Racing entry. Of course, Brett's going to do his best to defend that position. But at the moment, Danny P has, as you can see on your pictures, still battling out there for Carl, my friend, and see what they can do.
I'm just really taking in the Only Dan's paintwork here on Jeremy Washington's McLaren.
I've subscribed.
I'm really appreciating the details. You've got Danny P on the front of the bonnet. You can't quite see it for the headlights, but you've got a beautiful portrait there. You've got crowd favourite up the sides of the C-pillars. It is an incredibly well executed livery. I am absolutely a fan of the Only Dan's artwork.
Oh, you're a fan of the Only Dan.
I am trying to decide what it is on the roof of the McLaren for Jeremy Washington. It looks like a target almost.
If he was a fan of Only Dan, he would slow down 5 seconds to allow Dan to appreciate the Only Dan's livery from Jeremy Washington.
Is that so much to ask, really? And you can see, look, not too far behind. It's 5.2 seconds, but it's really just the opposite sides of the horseshoes as they come around. Kyle Ridley and Danny P are still right there, but not managing to close that gap still to Washington, despite all of the traffic that they are navigating through at the moment.
My friend, you're not the first president of the United States of America if you don't finish first. So Jeremy Washington, I think, that mastermind strategy, if you are tuning in earlier, he did the alternative strategy. He boxed later on in the first stint and took one extra lap, I believe, over the rest of the field there. Put in some banker laps of 44s. Then he boxed on lap 48 when Danny P boxed on lap 43. Carl boxed on lap 45 and Reese Wakefield on lap 43. Stretched that out, put some banker laps in, did the old Schumacher-esque pit stop strategies back in the day when Schumacher was winning championships, and Jeremy Washington at this moment looking good to win this championship by doing the Schumacher-esque pit stop strategies.
Bunker defends his line, goes up the track into the bus stop to just keep Schotter behind. This is the battle for 6th, and it seems like an awful amount of separation. We're going to jump forward though, because again, as we cross the start line, Ridley right on the tail of Danny P. I'm really curious to see, as we enter the last 9 minutes of this race, we're looking for a white flag very soon. What is Danny P going to do here? Does he just stand on the brakes through one of these corners, let Ridley past, and then get the run in the slipstream on the final lap? Does he try and maintain his position all the way to the end? Has he got something in store for us? He's got to be thinking that.
Yeah. But the thing is, he's got a good chunk of change of Carl's been studying him, he's been studying Carl. So and once again, I think I'll come back to this earlier. I said in the broadcast, it's laying your cards down. You know when to hold them, know when to fold them, and know when to walk away. And the situation has been like that. Carl has been a good chunk of change over the last 30 minutes studying exactly what Danny P.
Inside of Bunker. Whoa. Bunker slides, just pulls it up at the wall, and you get it moving again. Thankfully, Bunker's gotten back on the road. A safety car there would have changed absolutely everything for Jeremy Washington in front.
Oh, you don't want to end it on the safety car as well, too, because you know that Pete and Nathan are sitting there patiently at the moment. They want to get on the gas lane themselves. and lead a couple of laps. But, yep, it has kind of... And also, you don't ever want to see a driver, DNF so late into a grueling and fantastic endurance race.
No, absolutely not. That was a very close one, and I expect that we will hear from the stewards on that in no time at all. Pete Manette was rubbing his hands together, sitting in the safety car down in pit lane.
Oh yeah, he's foaming the map, going, "I want to get out there, my friend. I'm gonna show you the quickest lap around Daytona Oval." He's probably the Nordschleife lap champion. But
he's no slouch, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's the Stig in the safety car.
Kyle Ridley continues to just match everything Danny P is throwing at him. The gap now, though, you may have noticed, a half second down. So Jeremy Washington on that last one, just a bit slower, 1:45.58. So that lap traffic perhaps just starting to get in the way a little.
He's got to be cautious, but JW's not got to risk it, my friend, right now.
6.5 minutes to go.
He's got to think about right now, double points, winning this race, going into this one with essentially a 27-point lead over Reese. And Reese currently at the moment just been lonely in P4 since the last round of pit stops. Washington's got to basically, mate, start engraving my name, There is one R in Jeremy and Washington. They start engraving it, but right now it's not over yet. But he's going to have a big smile on his face. Whether Kyle's going to risk it for the biscuit of Danny P is going to be interesting. I think that's going to be brewing up there because this will be a battle. Once again, it is a battle for P3 in the championship. Double points on the line here. Kyle is behind Danny P going into this one by a little bit. And if he gets past him on the track here and gets that P2 in the podium, he's got essentially that P3 in the championship. That's signed, sealed, delivered, my friend.
It's going to be a very, very close one. We've got probably, look, I'd guess maybe 4 laps to run here, maybe even less. So the time's getting very close for Ridley to pull the trigger on the final stage of whatever plan he's been working on over these last few laps. Danny P will be desperate to ruin his day.
Yeah. Oh, he's got the trigger at the moment. He's
primed, right? He's ready to fire.
Yeah, exactly. If Danny P at the moment has been shot, then Kyle Ridley's not going to put a band-aid on it. He's ready to go for it too. And I'll be waiting for that one to say it all race long. So this is it. He's been sizing them up too. So, hey, I've been in theatre at the moment. I've worked in Broadway and I've worked in theatre companies around the world. You do your dress rehearsals. You know exactly what's going to happen in the main show. It should not be a improvisation. It should be that Kyle has to know, step out of the shadows into the spotlight and show exactly, be the man on center stage there and steal the show away from Danny P. There you go.
Sure enough, a 10-second time penalty there for Aaron Schotter and the contact made with James Bunker. So that's going to drop him back to, at this stage, about 9th position from his current 6th. So that definitely cost him that contact so late in the race. 4 minutes to go here. We are almost 2 hours into our evening. This endurance race over Daytona getting close to the fat lady singing. And, of course, Barney
it's
waiting.
Barney waving the flag, and then you got the kids to bed now, mate. I mean,
looking forward to
it's
it.
a little late. School tomorrow.
Absolutely, it is a school night. That's why we brought the start.
Is it
of
school's
the race
out for
segment.
Danny P and Kyle? That's going to be interesting because I have a back marker up the road there. So Kyle, out of the infield at the moment there. If you can hang with it at the moment and get a nice slipstream out of the exit before they go into the actual Daytona Oval, where you can get the super high speeds that you're seeing here this evening in excess of 280 kilometers an hour. Kyle's going to be well aware of the situation. This is the closest battle you're going to see, essentially, in the top 3. Jeremy Washington should be able to walk away with this one and put his top hat on there.
Hasn't he? Down to 3.9 seconds now, so he's just making sure he gets there. He just wants to make sure he safely gets to the end at this point.
Danny P could get held up a little bit. He could get a good exit, get onto the banking elevation. We know exactly that's a huge banking elevation here at Daytona as well, too. Those cars will be sliding ever so closely to the fence, but then the slipstream now is going to be working for Kyle. He's got to get on that tailpipe very, very quickly at the moment there as Denny P does dispose of the back marker.
Simon Caplet just gets overtaken cleanly on the run up to the bus stop. Ridley will be just wiping away a little bit of sweat there, comfortable that he made it through. Had he got caught behind Caplet, that might have been it. Might have been it. We're checking with Jeremy Washington, because he is just a little further ahead. Down to 3.8 seconds now.
All the windscreen wipers are out for Kyle as well too. He realises it's the time to attack. It's the time to pounce. The time of turn one, perhaps in the last dying laps of this race there. Jeremy Washington out of reach at the moment. It is a battle for P3 in the championship. It is a battle between Kyle. It's a battle between Dan the Man. Can he hold off at the moment? It's going to be crucial. It has to hold off essentially about 2 laps, give or take. And I'll tell you what, Carl Ridley is smelling blood in the 978 Acura there of Danny P.
We're absolutely going to get the white flag on this next lap. You have to think. At about 1:45 per lap. We're inside a minute and a half now. Kyle Ridley.
Joe's going to lose his voice if this race doesn't end soon, mate.
Oh, just trying to decide what is Ridley going to do at this point. He needs to close this gap up. He can't afford for the gap to be more than about 4/10 as they make their way onto the back.
Snap of oversteer. Yeah, exactly. Doesn't need that, but then get back marker and play as well too. That can help Danny P big time. You get a slipstream here. You need that, especially on the oval tracks. As you go down the backstretch, of course, generally you only have 4 turns left. At this point, at the moment, they've got 3. At the end of the day, into the bus stop. This is where Carl needs to pounce, my friend. He needs to make it perfect every single time. He's going to be in reach, my friend, but once again, when JW crosses that line, will that be the last lap of this race? Because it's about 31 seconds away from that.
He comes around. We'll take a look. Barney pulls the white flag out. There it is.
Yeah, it is.
So we are into
this is
the
it.
last
This is the
lap.
time for Carl to pounce. It may be in the turn one. That'll be a late send, but he can get close. Oh.
Ridley closes the gap. This is where he wants to be. Exactly where he wants to be on this last lap. Within about 4/10 is going to be enough. Once they get onto that back straight, it's all going to be down to the bus stop. Ridley closes it up again as they make their way through the first horseshoe. Danny P,
the pit road as well
exit.
too. It's interesting, ran out of gasoline, I'd say. At this point, that's out of top 10 there for RP. But at the moment, this is where you're going to be focusing on a little kick to the right there. Back marker may be very much in play. A little bit later on that one, and they get a nice little run. And a little bit of a tweak of steering wheel at the moment, the dirty there from Cole, but Danny P's got to hold on, he's got to defend for not only this race, but his championship hopes there in P3 position.
Really needs to get that foot down half a second back. He needs to start closing that gap. He needs to be right on the tail of Danny P as they come out of the bus stop. It's going to be down to his late braking here. Jeremy Washington comes out of the bank turn. You can see in the background Danny P and Kyle Ridley. They're not going to catch him here. The question is, can Ridley catch Danny P? Here we go, 3/10. Does Ridley have what it takes to stick to the back of that Acura on the way out of the bus stop?
A little mistaken. I think Danny P's got him. Danny P's going to get the slipstream as well. But Jeremy Washington will get the win. I don't think there's going to be enough there from Danny for Carl, so that should be all
It's
she
coming
wrote
down.
there.
It's coming down though. The checkered flag waves. Jeremy Washington takes the win. Danny P holds Kyle Ridley off by the barest of margins. 0.15 in the end. As we make our way around, Jeremy Washington, a stellar win across that 2 hours of racing. Very, very well deserved. In the end, just 1400th of a second separating Danny P and Kyle Ridley, but both put on a tremendous show this evening. However, Jeremy Washington, absolutely the one to beat.
Yeah, Jeremy Washington, you are my only dance fan. Absolutely. Mastermind, 2 places gained. He took that mastermind strategy there by going down to pit road a couple of laps later than the other drivers there. At the end of the day, a couple of positions gained there for the man that's now going to be in the championship, and now in an almost very close, impossible task for the rest of those drivers to take the ultimate cup away from him.
Absolutely. We see the fireworks going off. Always good to catch that, because you only get a small amount of time to really take those in and soak in the win. But Jeremy Washington taking the win. He jumps off track and off the side. Look, you would be after that, wouldn't you? We are just waiting on the final results to come through from our race stewards. Obviously, a few cars out there.
Mitch Curry went in the pit road. Yeah, but he's still going to maintain, I think, 15th place. You can see, well, he's basically out there at the moment, some of the drivers, but there it is, the situation there for Mitch Curry as well, too, down 4 positions, too, for the boss man. He's just nursing across the line now. I think he's out of gasoline, mate.
That might be the case. Let's go and take a quick look. He is
barely, bring it home, mate.
Barely rolling.
I'll tell you what, I will get out there. I will jump down there from the commentating box and push you across the line if you need to, Mitch.
He's made it. Just barely crosses the line in 15th. Dan Moko coming through behind him.
Hey, these drivers are going. They're on Bush City limits, isn't it?
Yeah, just sneaking home.
Not Bush City limits. That's right.
That's taken us back a little bit, isn't it?
Hey, it's 70s, my friend. Yeah.
Let's go to the results for our feature race here tonight. And Jeremy Washington takes the 200 points ahead of Danny P and Kyle Ridley. We will go and we'll have a chat to each of them now, and let's kick it off with the man who put on the biggest battle I've seen in quite a little while. Kyle Ridley, welcome back to the booth, my friend.
Kyle.
Hi, how's it going?
Mate, doing well. How are you feeling right about now? I imagine you're a little sweaty after that battle with Danny for the last, hour and 10 minutes?
Oh yeah, I mean, I was sick at looking at the Acura, to be honest. I was either staring at a Porsche tonight or at Acura. I kind of got towed to where I needed to be, but played it smart, and if it wasn't for that lap car on that last lap, I think I may have gotten him, but P3 is pretty good.
Absolutely, and yeah, we were talking about that on the last lap, and really that back marker just giving Danny P the amount of slipstream he needed to hold you off in the end. Had it not been for that, I think you're on the money. I think you would have had him. Mate, an absolutely phenomenal drive from you, up 4 positions from where you started, but to finish in 3rd after so long battling it out there with Danny P, a very, very solid result, and it's going to be interesting to see where the points have you standing in the championship with 1 round left to go. Talk to us about Magny Core. Are you familiar with the track? Are you looking forward to the final round next week?
It's a tough track, isn't it? It's going to be you got your fast corners, you got the tight corners, and you got a lot of chicanes where track limits are going to play a part. So it's interesting, and it's also very French. But we'll see how it goes. I'm pretty sure Daniel is ahead of me in the points, so that position I really needed, but battle for 3rd in the points that is. So we'll see how we go.
Oh, you had to send it, mate. Yeah,
I needed to. I needed to.
I think you're right. You hit the nail on the coffin on that one, the back markers, and they came into play there and gave him a little Danny P that slipstream that you couldn't challenge late in that.
Yeah, I noticed the Acura was a little slower in the straight line, so I was lining it up for the last lap because I knew if I battled, it would promote Wakefield into the fight, and I didn't want it, so I was going to wait to the last lap. But yeah, lap cars, that's part of the endurance racing.
Absolutely is. Well, mate, look, still a solid result, and certainly not a huge number of points the difference. We'll take a look at that in a second, but we'll let you go and grab yourself a drink of something refreshing and celebrate a hard-fought podium position. Kyle Ridley, P3 in our Daytona endurance races tonight. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We'll of course bring in the other half of that duo that battled for so long, that we kept our eyes on for such a long time there. It is, of course, Danny P himself, mate. Welcome back to the booth, of course, and a really, really solid evening of racing for you tonight.
Yeah. Tonight was
Danny.
It was look, a lot of fun for us to watch. I suspect you were probably sweating a little bit harder than we were for most of that. How grateful are you for that lapped car just giving you that little bit of a toe on the final lap there to keep yourself ahead of Kyle?
I was pretty grateful because I worked incredibly hard to put a gap on in the infield and it'll just disappear by the end of the straight. So he gave me just that little bit of extra buffer. I don't know if Kyle was fuel saving, but he was lifting quite a bit. But yeah, it just made it a bit easier to cruise home in second.
Yeah, look, I suspect that the plan there, based on our conversation with him and certainly the way I would have played the race, I reckon he was quite happy to sit behind you and set up for that last lap pass. And unfortunately, just couldn't quite get past you in the end because of that little bit of aero assistance. But as he said to us just a moment ago in the booth, that is, of course, endurance racing and part and parcel of these longer races. Mate, that does solidify your hold just a little on third position, I'm sure. We're going to take a look at the points in just a moment and what the final round might bring. But we're going to ask everyone tonight, Magny Core, the final round ahead of us. What is your take on that track, and what are you most looking forward to and least looking forward to from that one?
I feel like we're just going to put a bunch of boats on a go-kart track. And I believe the track temp is also... might be able to pass. There'll be trains, but there'll be dives. But I think the track temp's going to be quite high. So I guess you can probably save the tyres a bit, but I don't know. I'll either be swimming or going around like I'm on a sailing yacht or something like that.
Danny, I've got a question, mate. What could you have done about Washington? Did you know that the overcut was going to pay off in this race?
Well, he was in the tow the entire time, saving, and I was kind of in no man's land, just trying to keep a buffer. I did overshot my pit box in my first stop, which I reckon did cost maybe 3 or 4 seconds. But again, if I was able to sit in the draft and save 0.3 of a litre a lap over the entire race, that's 20 litres. So I was probably only able to save maybe half of that, as Jeremy just sat in the draft, same as Kyle. I don't think Josh Phil saved much, but it was definitely a tall order to keep myself at the front kind of on my own.
Yeah, huge difference being stuck out there with clean air. It's certainly not the track where you get the best out of that. But look, in the end, a very solid result, and certainly stacks up nicely, I'm sure, for the championship overall. Congratulations, mate.
Thank you.
And hard fought. Looking forward to hopefully getting a chat to you at some point next week as well at Magny Core.
Yes. Yeah, it'll be fun next week. Be a lot of biff and barge, but it'll be good racing.
Nice work. Danny, a pleasure as always. We'll let you go and just unwind a little bit, hey?
Thanks, fellas. Have a good one.
Danny P taking position number 2 this evening. And we, of course, have just one man left to talk to. And that is none other than your race winner, Jeremy Washington. Jeremy, welcome back to the booth, my friend.
Jared, thank you. It's good to be here.
Mate, a bit of a strategic masterclass there this evening. I suspect the extra couple of laps that you managed to put on ahead of beyond the pit stops of your competitors at both of the pit stops really paying dividends tonight. Was that the plan from the beginning, or just what unfolded this evening?
I was pretty much going to see in the first stint just how powerful the draft was, and if I could break it, then go for it. But it was pretty immediately obvious that Reed and Danny had really good pace, and pretty much everyone up in that top 5 or 6. So immediately switched to fuel saving, and it worked out really well for me.
Yeah, we did speculate early on this evening that your sitting in behind people was very much intentional and trying to save just a little bit of fuel in every lap. But how much do you think you were actually managing to put in the reserve tank by doing that on the way around? We just heard from Danny P. He reckons he could have been fuel saving around about 1/3 of a litre per lap. Is that pretty much what you were seeing?
Yeah, a little bit more than that. In the draft, I could save 0.4, 0.5 of a litre, I felt. But in that last stint by myself, I'd underfueled quite a bit just to get the track position. And I could only save about 0.3, 0.3.5, 0.35. So, it was tough out there. I was glad to have some pace there at the end, because if they'd got to me, I wouldn't have been able to do anything.
That does explain a few things that we saw. Absolutely.
Don't reveal your secrets on the edge, Jeremy, all right? So you just say I dominated this race, no problems.
Well, I wouldn't say it was no problems. Obviously, had the contact with Reese early on.
Oh yeah, what happened that, mate? By the way, my friend.
I think he just missed the braking point. And the McLaren into that corner, at least my McLaren, I do brake maybe a little bit earlier than he expected. And he just went back into me, but he redressed, so no harm, no foul, and yeah, we just went on from there.
Well, in the end, not impacting on either of your finishes too drastically. It will be interesting. We're about to take a look at the championship standings, or at least the provisional standings. Those couple of spaces between yourself and Reese probably just giving you a little bit more breathing room coming into Magny-Cours. We've spoken to everyone else. We're going to keep it consistent tonight. Magny-Cours, are you looking forward to it? Are you perhaps just dreading it a little bit for next week, or what's your feeling generally on that track?
I think in a GT3 car, it's not going to be too much fun. I haven't done any laps yet, but I think I liked it in open wheelers, but yeah, it could be a tough one. Lap 1, there's a couple of hairpins, which might be very interesting, and yeah, going in with, I don't know, it'll be a 35-point lead or something, will be actually quite scary, I think.
Well, mate, we look forward to counting every single point that comes your way next week so that we can hopefully have a pretty solid idea in the end of broadcast just how that championship is finished up. For now, a very, very well-deserved congratulations on taking out the Daytona endurance round, and we will let you go and just recover a little, hey?
Yes, thanks guys. Hopefully I'll be talking to you again next week in the same position.
Fingers crossed, mate. Well done tonight.
Cheers.
Jeremy Washington taking the win. Let's take a look at the provisional championship points here, Biggles.
Yeah, drum roll.
As we line them up. Now, again, I must stress this is provisional, and will be subject to, of course, penalties to be applied for a couple of drivers there. But Jeremy Washington at this stage looks to have about a 45-point lead over Reese Wakefield. Obviously, fastest lap, bonus points to come into that as well. But he's got to be feeling fairly comfortable up there just at the moment, I would imagine. Really, a monumental effort is going to be required from Reese Wakefield if he expects to be able to close that gap further. Honestly, Washington's going to have an absolute shocker next week in both races to see anything other than a championship win, and for him to retain that number one on the side of his car, Biggles.
Well, the man that's had the last 11 races in the top 5, that's going to be very, very difficult, isn't it? Because he knows how to just bring it home. Mastermind strategy tonight from JW. He gained the 2 places, didn't he, from his original qualifying position there, and he jumped 2 of the most important people in need to judge, Danny P and Reese Wakefield. So Reese Wakefield finishing in P4 position, Danny P finishing in P2. So he knows how to win the championship, because it's not always necessarily about finishing first. It's about finishing first ahead of your components. Opponents, sorry, is the word, not components. We're not in electrical engineering at the moment. That's BE electrical. But that's all you need to do. Cool, calm, collective, smooth operator, smoothing his way to the top of the timesheets, and perhaps one step closer to holding up that championship trophy.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the other one to watch, Danny P and Kyle Ridley. 13 points the difference right now. Ridley has been on an absolutely blinding run over the last few rounds. I don't think we can call that one quite decided yet. Danny P's going to have to back it up again with another performance like tonight to really hold on to that position come end of championship. It's going to be down to the wire. I think, the Washington Wakefield battle may not be the one that we actually end up paying the closest attention to next week, Biggles.
Yeah, I think it's the Danny P and the Kyle Ridley battle. That's going to be huge, isn't it? Because it was so close tonight anyway, across the line there. Kyle and Danny P got the edge a little bit on Kyle there in the double points, but that's still, it's close. It's
Very
close.
much so.
It's just Reese Wakefield, of course, finished that P4 position. It would have been interesting to spice and dice a little bit closer there to JW towards the end there, but you never know how it's going to pan out there in El Francais.
Absolutely. And of course, 1 week left to go in the Domains2U GT3 Championship. Do make sure you don't miss any of the action. We'll be back here at our regular time next week. Of course, coverage kicking off just a little bit before 7:45 Australian Eastern Standard Time. wherever that is around the world for you. I'm sure YouTube will be able to figure that out for you. Just hit that subscribe button and you will absolutely get the notifications for it as well, of course, if you tick that little bell for us. And we are looking forward to welcoming you all back again next week. Of course, a massive thank you to you, Biggles, for joining me in the booth once again this week. It's been a pleasure and looking forward to closing out the season with you next week, hey?
Thank you, sir.
And of course, a huge thank you to all of the sponsors of the MC Motorsport League here. Domains2U, of course, our primary sponsor for the GT3 Championship this season, but also very ably supported by iRap Designs and Sixpence Coffee Roasters, as well as Maximum Effort Racing and Everything Simulated. So do make sure you check out the sponsors, give them your business if you can, because of course every time we support them, it gives them more reason to come back and support us again for the next season. On behalf of everyone here at Simple Racing Broadcast, it's been an absolute pleasure to bring you another night of epic racing. One more round to go, same time and just a little later, I suppose, next week as well. Please join us again for the finale of this GT3 Championship. Round 8 at Magny-Cours awaits. Until then, folks, please do be safe, look after each other. From the comms booth, it is goodbye for now.